Kalive ko pa ta? Oo, kalive gan. Bakit? Kalimutan mo dito pala yung camera. Ay, ano na to? Day! Ay, day. Iwain ako. Kana ko. Yan. Paggamit ko yan doon. Yung puti sa'yo. Ay, yung pula. Akin yan.
Be careful. Be careful.
Dong!
Don't be playing with that.
Tingnan mo.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Ay, oh.
Wait lang, may ginagawa ko.
Dito tayo, malaki dito tayo.
Wala ba?
Ano, Alfred? Good enough, you never put that finger again.
Birthday na asawa ko, sis. Inday, salamat. Gihiadog uni si Kuduroy ay.
Begin.
Naglinis ako guys, naglinis ng panghalo. Uy, Miga Love, shoutout sa 7 million natin dyan. Ang dami nyo ah. Thank you so much guys. Ang dami nyo nanonood yan ah. Abay linti, Ged. Kahit nasa kusina, si Mayang, nandyan pa rin kayo. Ang gagawin ko ngayon guys ay pansit na with with tahong. Pansit with tahong. Para maiba naman tayo guys. Uy, 8 million. Thank you so much. Thank you so much sa 8 million.
Huwag mo nga. Sige. Isa. Ang ito. Kailangan ko araw si Dodong pag yun.
Maraming salamat sa 8 milyon natin dyan. Naglilinis ako ng tahong. Tahongis. Naglinis ako ng tahongis. Tapos, itong tahong natin, ito yung ihahalo sa pansit. Salamat sa patambay-tambay niyo dyan guys ha. Salamat talaga sa inyo. Ginisa ko na yung mga, yung unang panghalo, yung karne. Tapos, eto, dagdagan ko pa siya ng tahong. Para magiging espesyal yung dating. Ito tahong. Kain na ba kayong tahong, pansit na may tahong? Huwag mo muna ilagay dito yan, kaya puno na ako dito. Ay. Ang kamay ko guys, maninigas na naman ito mamaya guys, your boy ko guys. Yan, ganyan. Ayan na yung natin guys, oo. Yan o. Pakukuluin na lang natin. Maraming salamat sa 8 milyon. 8 milyon. Ang computer ko ga, yung camera, hinarap ko dito sa kusina. Kaya ganyan. Oy, 9 million people in the house. Thank you so much sa 9 mil nga nanood kay Mayang dito sa kusina. Yung mga pumunta sa mga sponsor ko guys, screenshot nyo na lang guys, send nyo sa akin para mailista ko kayo ha. Screenshot nyo para malista ko, para hindi na ako maghirap pa mag-reply dito sa Sarap na. Kaso hindi pa kumulo. Kukuluin muna natin.
Hoy.
Kailangan pang kumulo. Ang itsura ni Mayang guys, haggard na guys.
Hindi, ay. Dong, umalis dyan.
Hindi makita kasi no, mataas ba ang kamera ang ano ko or maiksi lang ang kamera? Ay, maiksi, anong tawag doon? 9 million peoples. Peoples. Ayusin ko nga. Yun. Yan, kita na ba? Yan o, tuwing ang aking tubigan. Ay, 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 ay. Eight million people in the house. Thank you so much. Ang galing naman. Nag-ano talaga sila. Nakabantay sila. Tagal naman kumulo. Oy, ano ba? Tagal kumulo eh. Nakabili kayo ng ano, yung pang-decorate ko sa cake?
Wala to eh. Wala daw sila. Pati doon sa may signal. Signal.
Punta kayo doon mamaya doon sa labasan. Punta ako sa may grupo, marami na yun doon. Pagtapos ko magluto, decorationan ko ng cake. Dali mo yan doon, kaya magawa ko dito.
Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of Project X. We know that you guys are hungry.
Hey guys, you got the one thing on the whole and bucket. Back on their project for the fish. Before we get started singing, I think we need to do a little bit of survey.
Salamat sa 8 milyon natin dyan. Maghiwa tayo ngayon guys ng ano, ng manik.
Ano ba ta? Karot?
Absolutely crazy morning. It's about
Diba may carrots ka na dyan?
at the end of the day, we'll pour up with like 2 inches of
Huh?
snow on the ground. Looks like you hardly ever get snowed, and then we get snowed. It's just crazy. Turns out now,
Patingin.
Mother Nature is confused. Mother Nature is confused. But
Oh, dugangin na.
here's what we got going on. I got one from going on up the dang mud hole here in a minute. That's not gonna be pretty. Robert Chris isn't here this morning, but he was nice enough to draw me some of his beautiful, pretty maps. I used to make fun of these, but actually they're pretty handy. So we're gonna head over here, according to this map over here somewhere. One of these holes, how do you get through these? Something like this. I would have said today, I'll stuck in a hole. We don't rip the air dam off, I think we'll be all right. Oh, there we go. So one of these holes up through here.
Fried chicken
I
to
don't
get
know
fried
if it's
chicken.
a there, Bill, but I think he buried an ARX tractor, trying to spread the beer. I got a phone call to come get it out, but we were in the middle of pouring some ITS, so I couldn't get away. But anyways, there's a couple I think it's that terrace right up there. Once I get over here, I should be able to.
Mega love shout out sa siyam na milyon dyan.
We're gonna go over here, kind of scope out what this is down as map. I think we're gonna have to set the laser up on this one. Usually, whenever we get these power lines in for Chris, we're like taking up the side of the hill. So all we really have to do is just maintain depth. That's where it's not growing a whole lot. We got plenty of fall and plenty of fish. On this one here, we do not. It lays pretty flat up through there, so we may even set the laser up and run some slope on it and kind of see what we got. So let's work out the net here, help out, and see what we got back there. So here's my method of attack, guys. This is where the pipe is going to enter the creek at. Here's a little bit of a pump. We're basically going to use this as a base elevation to start with.
Paki-share ng live natin, guys. Paki-share lang, paki-share.
Lowest part of where we're heading. Take the laser up here with me. Shoot that elevation. That should give us a pretty slope we need to shoot for. I'll kind of show you how I'm going to set my slope there. And then we will head. I'll probably trench up to there, and then we may move the laser up here and go down that way. We're getting kind of at the limits of our laser here. This is where GPS is at, but we don't have GPS today. We got laser, so we'll figure it out. But anyways, let's go up here and see what we got. We'll get a plan. This looks like this is the lowest spot where we're going. We obviously see our wet issue we have here, so see what we got elevation wise. This spot.
Ito yung trabaho ko, guys. Araw-araw, guys. Nandito sa kusina. Tapos live, wala na. Kusina na si Mayang katira.
That's 250 feet away from us. It's about 16 inches higher than we are now. So if you take 1.43, which would be 16 inches in decimal point, divide that by 250, and then take that times the whole lot.
Minsan, naninigas na rin yung kamay ko minsan. Kasi yung magluto ka bitaw, tapos magbasa ng kamay. Kaya, yun. Kamay ko. Pasmado. So guys, ready na yung manok natin, oh.
I got the grade rod set up where it needs to be. I'm going to go out there, set the laser up 16 inches higher than what it is right here. We'll come back here and adjust this. Hopefully we can get us a beef out there. Basically, right now this laser is sitting around and see the laser line out there at a perfectly level range. That's what that indicator picks up. What we're going to do is we're going to tilt that laser on that angle. We're going to put our magnetic thing on the machine, and that'll keep us on grade going through there. So no matter where we check that ditch at on point, it should be on that 0.5 point. Perfect. So first things first, let's go see if we can get this thing set up. Well, we're just going to ignore that happen for a second. There's a hole right there. I'm not playing on the hole. Let's go back to the laser. All right, so keep
Poging tatay! Mega love shout out sa iyo, Poging tatay. Nagluto ako ng pansit muna.
I'm going to leave this thing up 16 inches, and then we'll go adjust the laser until it starts peaking at us.
Ano ba yan? Tagal kumulo.
Moved up 16 inches. So, since we're using the truck as a tripod, trying to turn
Sus, gano'n ko. Pagkiro, tanawa.
we're going to walk down here, and now what we're going to try to do is adjust that laser. And now keep in mind that laser is coming across that field. Perfectly flat. Keep that stick low. We're going to adjust that up in the angle so we pick up the speed. And then
Huh?
will give us, hopefully,
Ay, oo, nakita ko kayo.
Ano daw? Ano daw?
Welcome to the exclusive world of API Preferred, where it's worth taking care of financially, no matter your preference.
Okay, guys, we have a slope button right here. I want this side to go up, which means I want this side to go down. So all I got to do is
Diretso mo na yan dito.
really hard to hear down there, guys, and it is really close. And now you
Salamat,
can see
Sis
our
Monique.
engines at the same spot, our lasers at the same spot, so you gotta imagine we got that on a little bit of a line. So, here,
Bakit ganito to? Hindi man umaano yung... Mitch Villa Vicencio, maraming salamat, Sisikoy.
you get the track out. And hurry up and pull that truck out before anyone knows you get stopped. Yeah, we'll see it again. And next thing we gotta do is get a desk set up.
Host, MLSR, Red Alert, Moto, Ready Loan, Moto, mega love, shout out to you, sir. Tingnan nyo guys, yung halo ko sa pancit ko guys, oh. Oh. Ayan, oh, tingnan nyo, oh. Oh. Yan yung pancit ko guys. Mukhang masarap yan, niluto mo, host. Oo, birthday po ng asawa ko, sir, today. Asa na, binaba ni mo, Day? Tadaan na rin palihog, be? Inday Vizcana, harang ulit, maraming salamat. Wow, na-miss ko na yan, nak. Seafood noodles. Yes, na, mamilon sa request. Nag-request yung mga boss ko. Sarap naman yan, paampun ako sa iyo. Si Monique. Pasaway ka talaga si Sikoy, Monique. Yay, Nels! Mega love, shout out. Dito. Mana mo ko pa nang gidaghan magdamag tubig, ari butang. Mamaya nito, lupay-pay na si Mayangers. Asa mo? Ano mo to? Yan. Sige, sabihin mo yan. Apa may wala na naman. Ganita, okay naman eh. Hawakan mo muna to, baka matapunan ako. Ay, nak, Jeep. Ako mo na. Ako mo dyan, no? Ayun. Ito to. Ginawag na yan. Lagay mo lang yan dyan para yung mga kasan dyan. Tanggalin ko dyan. Para di ako magsikip dito. Sikip kasi kusina.
Ito pala ni mo?
Saan?
Malaki ka na? Ito ba yan?
Oo, mamaya. Dami niyan si Sig. Grabe damihan. Si Sally, tara na. Makikain. Halika si Sikoy. Silip-silip lang ako. Super busy. Ang sipag ni Mambulan na mayang. Wala namang ibang gagalaw. Walang ibang gagalaw. Magluto si Monique. Kundi si Mayang lang. Mga kapatid ko, tagahiwa lang yan. Yung alalay-alalay. Patuyuin mo na lang yung kaldero pala, yung pansit. Hindi natin to makasyang eksaktong ilagay doon sa gawa ng puno yung lalagyanan. Kaya nga si Inday, pinapapunta nga ako doon ni Sir DC, bilhan pa daw ako ng ticket sa bus. Oo nga, di ba Sale, sinabihan ka? Ano si Koy, Sale, nagpadala ako ng pera sa mga pinsan ko doon sa Laguna kanina, gawa ng, bawal sila magbiyahe, gawa ng, bawal yung mga bata. Kaya sabi ko, bumili na lang kayo dyan, maghanda na lang din kayo dyan. Mamaya, nak, Jeep. Imi-message ko lang kayo, nak. Mamaya, pag matapos ng tita. Umpisa pa lang kasi ako eh. Buti si Mama Jeep. Buti si Ma'am Jeep Arlip malapit. Nakaluto na kaya ako si Koy Sally ng cake at saka ano, dalawang cake, banana cake at saka cake. Niluto ko kagahapon pa para hindi na lahat daming lutuin. Taga saan ka po, Ate Sally? Sabi ni Jeep Jeep. Taga ano yan? Si Sally Alabang. Ito na yung ano ko si Koy, yung cake na banana. Ayan, tingnan mo. Tapos, nakaluto na ako ng cake na pang cake niya. Sarapan mo, sweet na kapinpin. Mega love, shout out. Walo yung nanood sa akin, Walo pala kayo, 8 milyon. May jacket na po kayo, ma'am, na kaya umikot ako. Kasi yung camera ko lang kasi yung nakaikot yung computer ko nandoon sa sala.
Ayun na lang kaya tanong.
Pansit?
Asa ba to?
Yun nga yun eh.
Sinama na ko na yun.
Taob mo na yun. Yun ang taob mo yun. Kasi bawal yan. Pakain! Halika! Else! Si Sikoy talaga one day before nga gawa na ng mga Ron Mustafa, mega love, shout out. Hello po ako po today. Hello ako, anak ni Jo, ate. Jo.
Anak ni Ate Jo yan. Hello, bebe.
Yung anak ni pala. Hello, bebe.
Bibili na ako ta?
Hindi ka lang yung balik ko rin sakit kasi wala ko. Pa-drive ka doon. Hindi rin pa-drive ka. Edna, maraming salamat sa jacket. Maraming salamat din po. Wow, 9 million kayo dyan Sarap yan, pahingi. Halika, be. Maricres. Ay, Maricres. Hindi na to pusit. Ibang style naman to. Hindi na pusit tinalo ko. Ayan, iba naman.
Pansit?
Oo, pansit. Tingnan mo.
Sama ka dong? Sama ko.
Tama, ang init-init. Bata ka din yun. Uno na. Oh, yan. Bawa na ng karaan.
Christmas na. Ano may
Dumating na yung mga kapatid ko, guys. Dumating na sila. Yung iba nagtinda pa. Yung ito, si La Maricres, si Jerome Tatang, nandito na. Yung isa na lang doon naiwan. Mega love shout out din Sky Vlog. Salamat si Koy. Si Sale Bernardo. Sabi ni Simonet. Saan si Ate Banje? Nandoon. Pinabili ko ng pang-decoration ko sa cake. Kay wala pang decoration yung cake ko.
Si Dodo rin, nagtanap ng mangga.
Nagkuha bangga sa rep.
Oo.
Luto.
Sama si Dad. Oy, rice ka.
Well, I just kind of hopped off here for a second to check everything, see how she's looking, but, I think we're on the right path, Chris.
Ay, bawal ang bata, Banje. Ay, nako. Ha? Oh, di man, ka. Di dyan lang mo sila. Sino po may birthday? Si kuya mo, be. Si tito mo, Jessie, be.
I know it's fun, 10 minutes ago. Getting going here, I can't show you what the system is and how I'm maintaining grade. You guys see that out there? It's absolutely snowing with me happy here. It's like, actually, it's my anniversary right here. April 21st. It's Southern Indiana.
Wait, kamay ko na.
Supposed to be living it.
Thank you po, Miss Mayang. You're welcome, Miss NG Vlog. Thank you so much sa pagbisita. John C. TV, mega love shout out to you, sir. Ang init dito, guys, nasira kasi yung exhaust fan ko. Diyos ko, Ginoo ko. Ate May po ito. Ay, ikaw pala yan, si May. Ate May, ikaw pala yan. Oo, sis, MJ kasi nagluto nga. Ma'am NG Vlog, MLSO, sabi ni Monique. Seafoods to, seafoods na pansit, seafoods. MJ, nagutom ako. Ma'am MJ, sabi ni Monique. Mainit talaga, mainit talaga guys, mainit. Monique, MLSO. Ayos na. Ano po pangalan ng YouTube ni Ate Banje? Banje lang. Si Koy Agnes, miga love shout out. Kikay kaway-kaway, di atay. Pag hindi mo ko hinagisa niyan, pasabugin kung bahay mo. Si Koy Agnes, maraming salamat. Kaway-kaway, sis MJ, sabi ni Kikay. Jep. Boholana, hos, pahingi naman ako, Idlen, Kapinpin. Niluto mo, matagal na ako, di makatikim yan, hos. Bihon, pahingi. Oo, si Koy, bihon na ano, si Koy, yung seafoods na bihon, yung tahong, hinalo ko si Koy, tahong. Ano? Oh. Tahong. Joshua, baluran wag na isa yan sa mga sekreto para humaba ang buhay. Hehe. Kaya nga eh. Uy, ang dami nyo pala. 12 million. Ang dami nila. 12 yung nanonood sa akin. My God. Mahirap pa dito guys. Sa amin guys. Masikip pa ang kusina ko guys.
Well, guys, I've got here to the corner. We're going to turn and go that way. I was going to set the laser up and just kind of double check our grader or slope. We have hit a tremendous amount of water.
Si Jo yan. Si Joshua ay. Si Jo pala yan.
It's all draining that way.
Bigyan mo na kita ng jacket ha. Saglit.
That's a pretty good sign. So we got her going the right way. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw this positive switch right here. We don't have to worry about it collapsing. I'm going to get the laser. We're going to set it up right here. So we're going to get slope shift. Slope effect going that way. So that's it.
Ayan, may jacket ka na. Umikot na ako. May jacket na, may jacket na. Lana. Nandito ako si Koy. Naglagay lang ako ng jacket.
Everything seems to be sloping this way. So I got that one right.
Naglagay lang ng jacket.
I guess we need to head up to where you want to quit.
Meron pa. Nandito pa ako. Ano ba kayo? 11 million people in the house ha. Yung mata ko nandyan sa inyo sa kamera. Nagbabasa habang naghihiwa. Habang naghihiwa si Mayang nandyan sa inyo. Tingnan nyo na lang baka masugatan. Paano ka makasali sa parapol? Puntahan mo yung nasa taas. Mag-comment ka doon.
500 feet. That's basically 1% slope. So I'm going to go adjust the laser and you're going to holler a lot of other peaks.
Lahat yan na binababa ng computer. Yon, may ano yan. Tapos screenshot nyo na lang para hindi na ako paulit-ulit magtingin mamaya. Send nyo sa akin. Bigyan mo kayo entry. Para hindi naman kayo mapagod yan.
Get the laser set up, and we don't look at it. All right, so we want that side of the laser beam to go up, we want this side to go down. So, you ready? There's one.
Ready na to rumble. Ready na. Luto na.
Oh, no, hold on. Too far behind, so we have to go. All right, we're going to try this again. You ready? You're so far away from me, it's only got to be for a second, so I'm going to have to check it and then back it up, I think. Here we go. Let's go. How was it?
12 million ako. Lalo na ako naglaway ako sa mga sahog. Paano po? Putahan mo yung nakapin sa taas, tapos mag-comment ka doon. Tapos lagyan mo nung pagkatapos mo mag-comment sa mga palabas nila, lagyan mo doon, galing ka sa akin, buhula na mayang Team Love, lagay mo. Or buhula na mayang. Day. Andres.
All right, guys, sorry I missed a little bit there. It's been great to meet with visitors and water and J-Mans and
Salamat po, Nick. Ako kasi, itong ganito guys, saka ko to nilalagay guys, pag pahango na si pansit. Hindi ko to nilalagay ng
Bakit eh?
pabuhat to pansit ay. Ha? Pabuhat to bigat. Kaya
Dalisoy!
tawagin mo lang rin doon.
Dalisoy! Halika! Ay, tawagin mo pa mo.
710, may kami galap. Shout out to you, sir. 710.
Tawagin mo pa mo ba? Bigyan mo yan. Tawagin mo pa mo. Sabihin mo may kapuan na bilang. Magaya.
Look so tasty. Thank you so much, sir.
We are riding on a rock right here. It's got a hard day to be able to do the same bucket.
O, ipahango ko na to doon. Luto na. Done, kids and mom. Sisi Jinskay, ano mo, sis? I-send mo sa akin, sis, para ano, sis? Kung ilan ang natapos mo, sis. Ang sipag at ang bait niyo. Salamat, Sisi Koy, Agnes. Dana po ako sa nakapin. Who your visitor last time? Who's your visitor last time? If I remember, sir, you're my visitor last time also. That was yesterday, I think.
Kaya nililing bote niyo.
Pabigat eh. Ano yung mga...
Alin?
Ito, dali mo doon sa langis. Patong doon sa ano kasi lilipat na sa kaldero. Ito. May bugat. Hindi, ito. Ayaw, nagigamit na. Ari, dali, oh, ari. Ari. Ari, na.
Tahong?
Yes. Sa homes.
Hindi na, dali mabanos na.
Panos, bago nyo daghan na ito yung hatag.
Wow!
Ay, naku, asa na ba yung luto ang isa?
Nani ka tuliasin ako.
Ha?
Nani ka tuliasin ako.
Oh, yung palit magkukuan kaya di man ko pumangay anang gagmay unsa kuan, di maigo. Paano po makuha yung pera pag nanalo? Gcash po yan, ano? Last Friday, maybe during your illness. Yes, sir, 17. You're right. Hello po, madam, mayang. Hi, salamat sa at nakapasok na din sa live. Maraming taong natutunan sa live mo. Maraming taong natutunan sa live mo. Salamat po. Ano daw yun? Na din ako sa live mo. Sisi Koy, Dinskay! The lighter was with you? The lighter? Was with you? No. Okay. I forget it. I forget. Oo, Gcash. Gcash po. Oo, walang problema, be. Gcash po yan, Gcash. Grabe. Ito. Ang giinan dahil nga. Na po, gihuna-huna na. Nawa na po sa... Ngayon, magawa tayo ng fried chicken naman. Pwede Gcash si mama? Oo, sure be. secret. Asa naman itong harina ay? Asa naman butang? Asa nagbutang? Mandili naghumaga harina rin. Ay, nako.
Shit, is that enough? Hey, my God. You invented an army or what? Yeah, but that's barely enough for my day. That's it. That's barely enough for you.
Tarirariraram. Bye, laro muna ako. Laro daw muna siya. Sige lang, be. No problem, be. Mamaya ko na yung ulo kasi iinit pa lang naman yung ulo eh. Hello! Sumali pala yung anak ko, madam. Mas mabilis pa sa akin. Sige, basta. Mas mabilis pa sa'yo si Koy. Sayang din yan. This coming July ang ano niyan, Grand Road.
That's like a self-vacuuming dish. That's right. See, this side here is not so much. You said you're leaving though? I promise one of you things stuck clean outside your back. That's not saying a whole lot. So. All right, unfortunately.
Maganda pagkamayin na lang kasi naghugas naman akong kamay, guys. Kasi hindi kasi maayos pag hindi kamayin eh.
He's got a meeting. So, yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Huwag kayo mag-alala, guys, kasi ano naman ako, guys. Naghugas ako ng kamay.
Step at a time, Farmer Chris. Step at a time. That's it. This conversation's over. We're heading to the house, huh? All right, back for day 2. Chris is rolling in with a whole nother roll of pipe. I think he's just pulling a whole lot of work up there. But we're going to follow the 120 back up.
Masarap din kasi masayahin yung nagluto.
The auto
Ah!
quits working.
Yan, baban natin muna konti.
It only quits working after you run it for about 2 hours. So I'm gonna run it for about 2 hours. I'm gonna get some video of it not working. I think I'm gonna have to ship this one off to the dealership, see what's going on, because I just don't have time to mess with it. And I'm gonna get them some video of it so they know I'm not crazy. So let's get fired up, get rolling, and then just lay this stuff this morning and get to work. I said this girl works for Works fine. I don't get it, and it will work fine for a while. It's cool. Something's getting on. I don't know if it's a switch, pressure switch, or a sensor, or what's going on. After something gets with heat, it is not like what's going on. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm
Dipo
just
ka.
a few things.
Hey!
I'm just out of time. You guys may know from previous videos, being the local John Deere dealership, do not. I shouldn't say we don't have a best relationship. We have no relationship. It's been ugly over the years. But I have had one guy from there reach out and got me explain to him what my issues were over the years. And I don't know what they're going to say. We're going to give it a try, guys. We're going to give it a try and see what happens. And we'll go from there. So anyway, let's get this place set up and we'll get rolling. I'm the first to tell this you get it fucking all over. I'm not sure what's going on. It looks a little complex. Let's get off 4 more.
Grabe init ay.
Need an operator can say how this. The phone engineer was never just number it's brand new, don't even have $2 on it.
Let him explain to me how you get this bucket on this loader from an operator.
You just picked it up on that. You can't see it from up there?
No, you can't.
No. William Farmer told me one time that you gotta roll it all the way down, cook it, and then roll it all the way back.
Most brands we do. But this brand, put their hand on something this far.
Kainan na son, sabi ni Simply Marlene. Yes, si Koy.
On there to keep you from doing that.
Well, that's not very smart.
You gotta come in straight and pick it up. And I'm not very happy with it. Well, I called the company and talked to the engineer, and I'm the only one.
Ang sarap ito may butang lighters ng bana na bukang na kalimot ko.
I'm actually called.
I think so. I guess you're gonna go.
I'm sure somebody on YouTube's gonna give you some comments on everything we're doing wrong right now.
Well, if they got any advice on this, I mean, we ran a quickie loader for 15 years. Yes, you roll that all the way over. You can see that bar down under here hooking it.
Okay.
This model here, this brand here, you cannot do that.
All right. Let's get him a remote camera so you can see what's going on. He's gonna take a nail corner off there. That is a tough fit.
Init na ba ni?
Shake it a little bit. Tuck right in there yet. There we go. That's a tough fit.
So you got one bad spring on it. So there's your arm fully outside.
All right, we'll do this later.
Manuel, ihati daw yan bukas ha?
Later set up. We'll get going here again. Chris is kind of shoveling out right there a little bit with the I'm going to show you what I look at this. We put the pipe in yesterday. It's dry. When we stopped putting the pipe in,
Better run.
this is full of water. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know if we know what we're doing, but it's going to be working. Any more islands? Good.
Ako'y wag mo akong utusan, makukutusan kita dyan. Pag busy ako dito sa kusina.
Check that out, guys. We are about 10 feet from the end of our run. I'm glad we missed the late run because there wasn't all that much time in the ground down there. We were able to dig right through no issues. And imagine that. The machine's been running flawlessly. No issues whatsoever. About 45 minutes from the big meter, so I didn't expect a whole lot of trouble out of it at this point. We're going to get this last little bit dug in.
Salamat mo, Nick, sa pagtambay mo dyan. Sisi Koy, salamat.
Getting out here, the other end of the pipe, it's getting a little bit
Mahirap talaga sis kung masikip yung kusina. Napakasikip ng kusina namin dito. Pag makalipat na doon sa kabila, yun, maluwag na. Dito lang ako. Grabe talaga siya, ma'am talaga.
It's crazy, Chris, how this dish is wet, that dish is wet, that stretch down through there, that dish is dry, that dish is dry. I guess the door is hopefully intersected our problem, so. Alright, since the ball got
Pancit fried chicken na. Sunod na ng minudo. Oo. Sisikoy sali. Malayo pa ako sa ulam. Dito lang ako kain sa screen.
We could just let Jerry have fun with that. We need video of him being stuck so I can redeem myself. We use this fancy track thing I got right here. We're gonna cut a ditch.
Tapos, magluto pa ako uli ng ano, sikoy sali, pusole. Nag-request yung panganay ko, mama, luto ka uli noon, sarap. Wala pa to magluluto pa ako, may ulo pa, may crispy pata pa. O, dami nga request eh. Iwan ko lang kung may dala yun kasi pinabili ko yun ng lobster. Iwan ko kung nakakita ng lobster.
Magat mo dito sa taas. Ay, yun yun. Ang dami na na, malilit pa.
Dami request na si Sikoy, dami. Grabe itong mga amo ko si Sikoy. Sarado mo yung rep, ha? Grabe init. Matapos ako nito, mga alas 3 siguro. Mga alas 3 pa siguro ako matapos, iwan. Ay, sobra talagang init, sis Monique. Grabe talaga, mainit talaga.
Well, there it is, guys. All week right back in. Like I said, down there, we worked out yesterday. The ditch is already dried up real nice. I'm hoping this, we got sunshine for the next couple days. Hopefully this will dry up. Having that laser set up on the floor definitely helps us. I don't know if you guys can see this. This is a dip in the field. We didn't even see it. I kind of got to double check myself on grade thing to do that. It's good thing we had it set up because.
Tamsak Harang, Philip Mateo. Mega love shout out to you, sir.
Seems to be draining all right, but from here. We're going to send it over to Jerry. We'll get the AC in here in a couple of days and try to get that hole, get over into the hole and hopefully.
Day, Marie Cres.
That's where we're at.
Pag wala na kayong trabaho, anuhin nyo na, balutin nyo na yung ano dyan. Kasi ako pa magbalot. Hindi pa ako tapos dito.
Meron na ba?
Oo, kanina pa naluto.
Hindi ko alam. Ito, dito sa ano?
Oo.
Oo.
Andyan yung ano, pambalot na lumpia doon sa kwan.
Ganun sa manigutang man hindi mo makuha.
Mabawon, banjilin, anak. Bidara dyan na sayo, anak.
Wala. Wala. Na, ako manigutang nga. Hirap ko. At sino naman yun? Sino naman yung raka?
Oh.
Nasaan daw yung cake ni Neng?
Nandito, oh, dalawa. Iwan ko kung maubos mo pa to. Oh, dalawa. Oh, dalawa.
Saan daw yung ano mo?
Oh, dalawang cake. Oh. Oh, dalawa yan, oh, dalawa. Eh, di kita bigyan ito. Dudong lang bigyan ko, lalap ko. Sarap. Ang tago lang mo mahurot ng cake na mo taon. Ay, ginoo ko mo. Sa pagkamubo talaga.
Hindi naman eh. Ano ba? Bakit kayo natin?
Oh, lagi. Ubad ko lagi. Ang utukan na.
Naman ako na. Balik. Selain taklak na dito.
Jabo na.
Dali, taklak na lang. Chill naman na. Kita ka na sila.
Welcome to Father's Live. I don't work here, lady, where we share stories about folks who have
Wait lang, wait lang.
inspiring customers. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. I met a woman who
Alice in
thinks she can
Days.
get someone fired they don't even work there.
Malis ka din dahil pangit.
I ignored a teenager. got a
8 million. Thank you so much.
The third story. Customer did not receive their food and was added to the blacklist. Today's first story is, I don't work here, officially. A quick background of me to start. I'm an auto mechanic and have been since I was 6. My dad got me into it. And there's this one auto parts store me and my dad go to about 3 or 4 times a month for the past 12 and a half years, as we constantly rebuild cars. I know everyone there, and they all know me. This happens at that store. So I've been working on a new car for myself, a 1986 Pontiac Sierra. It's pretty close to done except the AC, which is vital for Arizona living. Have you dealt Arizona summer? 120 degrees on a normal day. My poor Toyota truck, made in Japan for Japanese weather in 1986, can't handle this torture. If you ever want to live just remember for every 5 minutes you spend outside, you'll need to drink about a half a gallon to a gallon of water. Dead A if you don't, you'll
Bilisan mo naman.
pass out in about 10 to 15 minutes. I order all the parts I need online and have to wait for the next day. No biggie, this is how it's always been. So the next day rolls around and I head over to the store to pick it up. Now, I live in a city of about 56,000, so it's not that big. There are usually 2 or 3 people there at any time. But when I pull up to the store, all the parking spaces are full, which was worrisome. There were about 30 spaces, so I decided to go park in the staff parking around back. They know me and my truck. They wouldn't mind. And then I was
Dito mo labit na visa yan dahil.
wait there. This was bad. I walk around to the front because I don't have a key for the back door. And oh my God, there are people everywhere. This was no Friday or Saturday. This was a Tuesday. The manager on duty, let's call him Rob, looked up at me and had a worried look in his eye. Rob's not the one to hire. He only had a small set. And as my only past 2 jobs were seasonal and a one-time thing, seasonal job being catering barbecue events with my uncle, and the one-time thing is a solar mechanic with the bishop of my church. I didn't have much behind me, but hopefully 2 years of seasonal work will get me a job at a cafe that's opening up in mid-February. Already got an application in to the owner of the place. Me, need some help there, Rob? As a half-day joke.
May batang makulit kami dito ulit. May batang makulit. Bata.
And as I've been going there very often, I know just how to speed up. So I pushed up behind him.
Ayan na si Kuya Diel. Ayan ha.
Shirt covered in oil.
Yan na. Narinig ko motor. Ayan na si Kuya Diel.
So I look nothing like an employee. But people accept it because they just want to get what they need and get going. I help out a bunch and they just keep coming. But there are things I'm not allowed to do, like the battery tester, alternator tester, and lathe. As if I were to get hurt, if company would be a big
Ay,
trouble.
nako talaga naman.
Cute woman that looks more like a drag queen than someone that touches cars. DQ for short. Me. Hey there. How can I help you today? DQ.
Ate,
I need
oh.
some cleaner and fix this thing that makes my car stop. She's holding a large towel completely covering all the finish.
Salamat sa
Me.
sikoy mo,
Going through
Nick.
fluid isn't a real thing. And you need the brakes? DQ. Yes, going through fluid is a real thing. My husband told me it is. She drops the towel on the counter. Makes a loud sound. Obvious that it's a brake rotor now. Me. Well, your husband's probably trying to pull the joke on you. As I say that, I unwrap the rotor. Load WTF.png. I just stare at the rotor as if in literal pieces. Me. Ma'am, this can't be fixed. This is beyond destroyed. DQ. Don't tell me it can't be fixed. At this point, the Rob comes over to see what's going on. He sees the rotor and has the same reaction as I do. Rob, this can't be fixed. Sorry about that. DQ. Fire him. He assaulted me. Rob and I at the same time. I don't work here. Rob says he doesn't, obviously. Rob, and he didn't assault you.
Manok lang yung taon si Sikoy. Unsay giluto nimo.
Fix it and get me the one.
Manok ra yung
At
taon.
this point, I look at Rob to see what he wants
Nagluto
to do.
ginagmay
He
si
tells me
Sikoy,
to go,
MJ.
I don't get it. So I do and come back with a gallon of home fluid. All the stores of this brand has it just for the reason of people pulling this kind of joke. And ring it up for her. $50. Me. You have an
Si Sikoy, Agnes.
DQ. That's outrageous. Why would you make that expensive? Me. I don't work here. Rob just wanted some help. This is what the higher ups priced it at. DQ. F you. My number is 12345678890. I'm gonna get you fired today. Me. Again, I don't work here. And what's the make and model of your car? DQ. Mercedes G-Wagon. Me. All right, looks like you're in luck. There are 4 rotors in stock that fit that. Give me 1 second. Goes and gets them, rings them up. The total's now at $130.
Bulagta na naman ako dito mamaya.
I assume? DQ. Are you scamming me? What kind of piece of SH place is this? Me. No, you want a blinker fluid, and if your brakes are this badly damaged, you'll either need to go to a shop and have it done there, or you'll need all new components and do it yourself. DQ. F you. I'm getting you.
Wala, 10 pala kayo. Ang galing naman. Maraming salamat sa inyo guys ha.
Me. You're a woman who thinks.
Sinsya na kayo guys. Hindi ko kayo maano-ano dyan kasi
At this point,
busy ka munduhan guys. Testing ko lang.
And walks out. She already put in her card and had it all scanned. I asked Rob what to do, and he says to take the rotors off the list and discharge it with water. And so I did. I somehow kept my cool through all that, mainly not wanting to make the store look bad in front of the other 20 or so people there. I continued helping until it was back down to a reasonable amount. Fire stuff.
May bata kami dito maingay guys.
I went to
Panay
get my
tawa.
first thing to do, as I
Sarap
was
kagatin.
to buy something. And when I come back, Rob has already finished checkout and started bagging stuff. I still got this print. How'd you do all that without my car? Rob, that hell you up with
Diyos, ginawa ko yung gara ay taman.
Drinks free
Huwag
too.
ka kasi mangialam
Me,
din sa mga
what? I was just being me. You don't need to do that.
Ba yan?
Rob, don't worry
Ano daw,
about it.
ano daw?
Finish your car.
Ano
I
mga,
want to see it next time you come
ano
back.
na yung chat na.
The next story is, I ignored your daughter. All right, I'll pay for gas then. Okay, this happened about a year ago. So the details are a little
Diretso oh.
I was 24
Mayroong
at the
linya to eh.
time, a
Di
little
pala
on
hindi
the
kayo
chubby side,
mahirapan. Ito
medium
linya
length
oh.
long
Yan
hair,
ang
and I
linya.
couldn't fight my way out of a wet paper
Ganito
bag.
linya yan.
This will be important, I
Diyan ka
promise.
magbigla.
I used to work at
Ano?
this gas station by the highway. I was
Napakahirap
there for
pa
about
rin
3 years
isa.
before being fired.
Oh,
I was fired
yan.
1.5 years before this happened. I don't still want to explain the reason I was fired from the store. It's that the owner thought they needed to downsize, and I was one of 4 that got pants. I don't blame the owner for this. I was planning to leave anyway.
Maraming salamat sa 10 million John. 10 million. Thank you so much.
Date night with my boyfriend for 3 years. I decided to stop for gas and to check in with some of my friends who started working there. They were rather busy that afternoon, so I pumped my gas and walked in to grab a coffee. Now the workers there wear a red shirt with the logo.
MJ Vlog, iniwanan mo ako kagabi sa live mo ah.
And some wore red hats with the company logo. I was wearing a red knitted dress, tight black suit pants.
Pagbalik ko sa computer, wala na palang tao. Salamat si Sikoy, Agnes, Monique, salamat. Imuha ng bata ho, hindi. Anak sa kapatid ko, wala na akong anak maliit, pero malalaki na.
Anyways, I was getting a small package.
Else Bergado, dami nyo minyo, konti lang, Sikoy. Ah, hehe.
The store owner was in the back.
Anak ng kapatid ko, sobrang kulit. Tawa ng tawa. Nilalaro ng aking bunso. MNJ video. Sabi ni si Monique MLSO. Dugangig anak ni mo. Na, di na madugangan kay Ligit naman ko. Abay, gisirad ang butas. Napilot na ang butas in taon. Bali nagiging anim yung anak ko, isang babae, kawa ng yung huli. Kambal kasi yung anak ko nung huli. Kaya naging anim. Pero doon lang din ako nagkababae yung kambal. Isa lang. Ang aking panganay ay 21, yung pangalawa 2020. Magto 20 this coming September. Yung pangatlo is 14. Yung pang-apat is 13. Magka 13. Tapos yung yung bunso magpipito. O pito na nga ba? O pito. Ay, pito, walo. Kalimutan ko na 2015. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Magpipito. Ha. Mga dagko na de. Oh, dagko na. Nang eskwela na yung taon. Kung mga bata ko daw, ganang kuan pa rin ang mga bata, ganang kuan pa sa mga uyab-uyab na. Nanay pamilya. Kaso wala man. Sawa ng Diyos, nag-aral pa man. Sayo ka namin nyo, hos. Kuan, nag-anak ko, edad na ho. Mga 20, ang edad, nag-anak ko, namin nyo ko 19. Magbuwang pa siguro ko ni mo, Enjay. Pala edad ni mo, Enjay.
They banned the lady from the store because she had started throwing things around the store.
Kuan man ko, magkurinta naman ko.
I didn't call the cops on her or inform the manager simply because I didn't think of it. I didn't splash my hot coffee on her because I don't believe animals.
Parihara na tag-edad. Pero tiguang paputanawon ni mo.
So I deliver sandwiches for a living. Been doing it for almost 6 years now. Most of our customer orders from businesses during lunchtime, and some of those businesses keep their doors locked. Usually I
Daan lang ako, no, Net. Salamat, si Sikoy.
Winston is never happy with his service. Sometimes he calls in because we didn't
Sino?
avocado on his sandwich. Sometimes he calls because the driver didn't show him respect in the service. Probably means they try to make eye contact or something, I don't know. Sometimes the food just costs me. The GM put a note on the caller ID not giving me credit for anything. Because we don't want to reward people for finding new and innovative. It's just like Winston generally being left unsatisfied. I delivered to Winston last Thursday, and as per usual, I called him for half an hour for the drive up for me to make his way to the front door. Everything went fine, except the usual attitude shot. The fun didn't begin until Friday, which is my day off. I'm sitting in my pajamas trying to find a song I heard online video, and my phone rings. I answer it with no. The sound of Winston's mouth. Me.
Ay, Diyos ko, ni mo dodong. Ayaw kay Tito na lang. Dali kay Tito. Dali. Dito ba? Sakit na. Patay na kain na Tito. Kain. Ay, ginoo ko ni mo daw ang gamay. Nalamog na yung bata namin dito. Wala ko'y anak mo. Wala mo anak. Oh, sana all may anak. Wala ko'y anak. Ay, wala kay anak. Bisura din ang gagmay. Litra ang cellphone. Wala ko'y anak, maog siguro. Siguro sana all may anak. Wala, bakit? Mag-anak ka na. Masarap kaya pag yung anak ka ng kapatid ko. Ay, nako, kay malalaki naman itong mga anak ko. Ay, lamog na lamog talaga.
Me. Hello? Winston.
20 edad ko na minyo. Dugayan na di, pero wala pa kay anak, no?
Me. Okay. I'm not working today, but you can call the store. Winston. Of course you're working. You always deliver my food.
Sila lang dalawa
Me.
makapit.
Not on Fridays.
Sila lang
This
dalawa.
is where my patent is okay method comes into play. Whenever I don't have anything to say, I just
Sila
say
naman talaga
okay.
kasi may wifi
Completely
sila.
non-confrontational. It doesn't imply any deeper meaning. It doesn't
Mapagod talaga tagay sa Ginoo.
or against you. Winston. Well, I ordered
Na ako yung anak mga piro daghan.
You wait.
Parehap mo ka sa akong soon sa akong papa, MNJ, walay anak.
Me. I'm not.
Duwa na sila kabuok, walay anak.
I don't work on Fridays. Winston, you don't get to disrespect me. Me. Okay? Winston, I'm gonna complain. Me. All right.
Nagsige na lang dahil kag padato diya MNJ kay mo kay ibuhi wa man kay bata.
Later, I got a text from one of my
Dili makuhaan ning kwarta.
Apparently, he called in to complain about me. He turns out he didn't fit, he got blacklisted. One of the owners ended up taking the call. She didn't like that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a
May
nice day.
gagmay pa mga bata, lingaw kayo, pero mga dagko na Hesus, Ginoo gadto konsumisyon. Pabadlungon. Labi na yung arong mudjol-mudjol, arang ka sumuta tong unahon pa tong duwa, usa tong
/nuclear event.
mudjol.
It's a place for all forms of extreme revenge. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel. And
Ampunin mo na lang ako, MNJ, sabi ni Monique. Bigyan mo ako, ha.
If I have fun at work and have my night shift,
Maodjod.
it's fine. So I ended up as security guard. Payment is okay.
Sungot ka adyo ning mudjol kay perting adika itong mga duwa. Unahon pa itong mga duwa, usa pa ko tong mudjol, arang ka sumuta.
I worked at some
Pamangkin ko marami.
shift manager, whatever. Man in the middle to coordinate security, cleaning, maintenance, gardeners, and so on. So that everything runs smoothly in the background.
Walang problema yung hindi pa nagka-COVID kay pag nandyan na yung service ha, kanya-kanya na yan silang labas. Karon ang mudjol aran sa sunguta. Akala mo tapos na yung mudjol. Yung pala wala pa pala yung mudjol, hindi pa pala tapos. Buti kung maliliit nalaki na.
The building itself belonged once to the government, but was sold to a private company security system for wow. Access with key cards.
Magpa-inject na lang si Si. Dili pareha sa una. Maodjod sa una sa kita pa ay Ginoo ko. Sirita na ta sa mata sa atong sa atong ginikanan, wa na hupo na ta karon mga bata karon bodlay.
Floors 1 to 6 were rented out to private companies and free for public. You would enter the building, greet our security staff, and just tell them where you wanted to go. The girls and guys would show you the way to the elevators and everything's fine, but not for the floor 7 to 14. That was restricted. You would need a special visitor's pass. Fill out some forms including your ID. Security at the front desk would grab the telephone, ask if everything was okay, and the visitor could be sent up. Then they would call me so I would reserve one of the elevators for a special ride. Operating the elevator from my computer, set to express mode. No other stop.
Sisi, ayaw asawa ko. Ayaw asawa ko ha. Gusto ko sana ha. Hadlo ka ayo ta sa atong mama. Maodjod.
Day shift was a bit more complicated.
Ayaw ng asawa mo magpa-inject ha?
My shift goes normally from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. 12-hour normal. About 20 days.
Kaso
per month.
kasi laki din yan, milyon din yan MJ, mga 2 milyon ata pag-inject.
When all the employees enter at 7:30, but they have their
Yung
key cards.
process,
Other thing are the deliveries.
alam ko milyon, bagay, mayaman ka naman, kaya mo yan, pero maganda rin talaga yung ano.
Good luck finding someone. Your problem. Some companies wanted to be part of our internal
Striker 101, thank you so much, sir.
internal mail office was at floor 9. That means B-Pass. Fill out the forms, wait for approval, get escorted to the elevator, and so on. Everyone understood the rules, except for this special guy. Early 20s.
Naa 20k daw, boss. Ay, kahadlok ba po na itaon? Nako, ayaw yung totoo na MNJ na 20k. Wado kumutuwa ng 20k. Nako, ayaw Jod, ayaw. Nako, baka masira pa yung katawan mo. Walang 20k na proseso na inject. Mahal ang inject. Diyos ko, Ginoo ko.
Yikes. It was my first time ever seeing grade number 1 in person, and my egg got whooped. One of my coworkers was a cute little girl, in the early 30s. Low self-esteem, the typical wallflower,
Ha.
a very kind heart. The typical
Hindi nga totoo. Mamaya nako.
others out to find a specific solution. She was the perfect
Mahirap.
customer care. And Dee
Mahirap
literally
na.
ripped the tiny lovely solo part one morning. It needed two of our maintenance guys and the other desk person to separate him from the girl.
Maganda yung
Totally
kahit
devastated.
sabihin mo mang mahal, safety naman yung sarili mo.
Man,
Doon ka nga sa mura, mamaya isang linggo lang, titirik ka na. Oh,
Then I called another guy from the
mahirap
facility
yun.
to take her shift at the desk. Just one in the lobby isn't enough. The
Basta may kaya ka naman.
I promised to put her on a different shift so she would not leave in the morning. She agreed. She was the power horse for the front desk, especially for rush hour. I informed our manager about that guy and got just a shrug. Your security. You should
Mahirap
handle it
yung
by
ano,
yourself.
nako.
Wow, really?
Tingnan mo dyan mga balita-balita, ang daming na ano sa mga injik-injik na yung mura lang. Ayaw dyan, kay na.
Later, the two maintenance guys came for a coffee break. They were still upset and fuming about Dee, and he told me all the nasty things the guy said to her.
Hindi tayo yung akin lang ba, maganda kasi yung
One of the quotes that they heard was,
safety ka na doktor, yung doon ka sa safety doktor, huwag ka doon sa mura nga matay.
Wow, I was
Trabaho
shocked.
naman
I started questioning
pabaligbag.
the guys and facility personnel about this guy. And heck yeah, nearly everyone had problems with him. He even gets
Mahirap
caught
yun.
peeing outside the side entrance or spitting on the floor. My shift was over, and I didn't tell my day shift about that. That was something personal.
Tawa-tawa si Monique eh.
We security.
Monique!
Next night, I spent most of my time digging through old cam footage just to prove it's peeing, littering, and if all that stuff was true. For sure it was.
Boss, bigyan daw ako ni Monique. Bigyan mo Monique, ano yung tuta?
I even caught him on cam tagging one of the walls with a marker. Weekend was coming, and I informed the maintenance guy that I need elevator 3 on Monday for a special task. And it would not be
Alam mo ba,
available until 10 a.m.
hindi sana abot na anak din ang anak ko kung hindi ako naghabol ng may batang babae. Kasi puro lalaki.
Because this would mean some trouble with our daily business. He asked if it could be done in the late afternoon, when most offices were closed and everything was quiet.
Kaya umabot talaga ng ganon, pahabol ko talaga, naging dalawa pa.
You bloody bee. You filthy son of a bee. You want to trap this guy? Then he laughs out loud.
Oh, tapos babae at lalaki, yun yung swerte sa akin.
Then maintenance guy went from funny to dead serious. Promised me that he did it day 2. Great. Maintenance crew was fully in.
Yun yung nagdadala sa akin swerte, yung aking kambal. 3 lang anak ko sis, may apo na ako dito. Din ako, 2 na. Ilang taon ang panganay mo, Sisikoy?
Monday,
Monique.
teabag parked right in front of main entrance. That's a no loading and no parking zone. He went to the counter and made the same fuss. Cussing, swearing, and all the animal behavior. Front desk informed me, and I sent elevator 3 to the lobby. Everything went fine as usual. He went into the cabin and the elevator went up. Then when the cabin was
Hindi,
down,
mabuti Monique. Akala ko dalaga ka pa. Akala ko din yan dati.
It stopped immediately. Normal lights went off.
Bibiro lang ata yan si.
He was right.
26 na si Sikoy. Matanda lang siya konti sa anak ko ng 5 taon. 21 yung anak ko panganay.
The intercom stayed silent for him. He didn't press all the buttons, like a secretary typing midnight. Click, cam, elevator 3.
Kaso lang, puro mama. Ay nako, Diyos ko, ginoo ko.
Now he thinks he's clever. Turns on his mobile and tries to ring someone. Oh, you little piece of that thing.
Ma!
You can't get a
Ma!
signal call
Ay nako, iwan na lang.
Gap number 3 is special. It's used in design as a special rescue elevator for emergency services. It can withstand a huge building fire. Reinforced concrete. Part of the main support structure that holds the entire building. Good luck getting a signal in this concrete sarcophagus.
Grabe, 48 na nga ako ngayon, September.
My only answer is yes. Took a few minutes to my office.
Magulang ka, matanda ka lang ng 8 taon.
Starting in a circus narrator slash wrestling commentator's voice. Me. Ladies and
Yung bata mo
gentlemen,
pa kasi tingnan mo
I
na
present you the bad lion. Big laugh from everyone. Me. He's very dangerous and wanted to humiliate one of my coworkers. Peeing and spitting in every corner he can find in Marcus territory. This wall painting animal is now locked in a cage. The crowd cheers. I even wanted to laugh out loud because I kept serious and formal, like every circus manager would do. Me. Now, my fellow audience, would we rally him a bit more?
Kana si Mikmik kay naaraman na
Do not
tumagtik.
laugh or make any noise. It could be
Kay kana si Elmer man mo driver man na ni ate.
I put a finger on my lips.
Ate pangita lagi na mo ang unang ipang mesida tong mga tropa ng vlogger sa buhol kay kung makakita mo ni batahan bay batahan klaro.
He starts to freak out.
Dito tundong sa ilang
Not
miyang.
even 10 minutes by the time. I informed him in a monotonous voice that we have some issues. Wouldn't be so long. 5 to 10 minutes. Nathan
Bata kinadaghanan mo daw nag-uyab
I
ingon
spoke
ni mo
clearly
ate.
out that his life is not in danger. Was true, but I said this with a very uncomfortable
Sana all, sambunot abot po sa akin, Mandilin.
He's sweating bullets. He bangs on the doors, presses all the buttons, even tried to open the doors by hand. Then I turned around and see all the guys laughing.
15 anyos pa.
3 to 5
Payat
minutes
kasi
later,
ako,
with
kaya
his
parang
phone,
bata pa.
me,
Kaya nga eh.
finish him, maintenance crew cheers. Do it. I grabbed the phone and ring
Si MJ nga, hindi rin halata na purinta eh. Ako talaga, mature tingnan kasi, naku, Diyos ko, sa taba ko ba sobra.
Why does it take so long? I want out, you stupid rants, insults, racist slurs.
September kasi mo ne.
Sir, stop it
Yung
now.
anak ko,
We have a
September
situation. I need
12.
some information from you. He calmed down, shocked like a deer in headlights, and got very scared. He stutters. What? Sir, touch the walls of the cabin. Are they a bit warm? He touches all 4 walls. D, very confused by now. Yes, they are warm, a bit. I hold my phone away from my ear, go into my arm, and start shouting.
Salamat naman sa inyo at nandyan kayo, siyam pa rin kayo. Dami nyo dyan.
Fire spreads quickly. One person in the cabin and smashed the phone back with a loud bang. D was rotting in the cabin.
Kung gusto nyo magpa-entry dyan, eh, putahan nyo lang, tapos isend nyo sa akin, screenshot nyo. Send nyo sa akin, tapos ililista ko.
Maintenance guys grab some tools.
Oh, September 1. Ay, September 12 yung pangalawa ko.
The suddenly moving elevator scared the last bit out of this guy. He believed that his SH life is over. He must be
Siksi
gone.
kaya ikaw mo ne. Kaya nga, siksi nga eh. Pati si MNJ, siksi rin. Sana all, mga siksi.
2 to 3 seconds later, and I would have missed
Ano ba mga sikreto nyo?
He was so confused he had feet all over his pants on the cabin floor. He instantly jumped out of the cabin right into my arms. Slowly overstrained from what has happened. I pushed him away.
Magka-birthday tayo mo ne. Uy, September 1 ka rin pala, MJ?
I spoke with the deepest terrifying voice I could get. You threatened one of my female coworkers, wanted to humiliate her.
September 14 ka. Anak ko, September 12. Oo. Yung anak ko, yung isa, pangalawa, September 12.
Faulty elevator doors and you fell into the shaft. Unhealthy accidents with the garbage press and all nasty stuff. Look, sunshine, we have enough of your bad attitude. This is your last friendly warning. We have received roughly face again. SH gets
Wow, 11 million people in the house. Thank you so much, guys.
He was stunned, couldn't realize the situation. He didn't say a word, just sobbing and crying, somehow glad he was alive. He slipped from the wall to the ground like a wet towel and had a complete mental breakdown.
Mas matanda ako ng buwan sa'yo, sis Monique. Sabi ni Sally. Pag magmahal ang mga September, agoy! Karen Morales. Hi ate, anong luto mo? Manok pa tong niluluto ko, Karen. Mag 48 na ako sa July. Pero si Sally, batang-bata rin tignan. Sana all, mga bata tignan. Kasi mga sexy kasi kayo eh.
Hello, ate Karen.
He was done. His attitude was broken, and he learned his lesson. Then he was escorted out to his side entrance back to his van. Later, one of the guys who escorted him out said he got a nice piece of parking ticket as well. Double strike for the facility.
Luma na kasi yung pic ko sa siha. Anong luma? Eh, nakita kita. Nagtawagan tayo Ano ka? Nagbibidyo call tayo
I would say mission accomplished. The next few weeks were normal. Then a new delivery guy showed up. Never asked what happened. But the new guy
Kala ko bata ka pa sa akin si Sally. Yan kasi si Sally, nakita ko na yan. Gawa ng tawagan kami niya nung minsan. Nakita ko na yan. Bata pa talaga siya tignan.
He stopped his monologue and distanced me. I was on my way out, wanted to shut his door. He then threw a sentence in my back with a laughing undertone. We don't want any tragic accidents. As I closed the door, I heard him laughing sarcastically. He knew what happened. Little lady quit a few months after this incident. We never told her what really happened, but she couldn't handle the stress that this D has caused her. She now works as a shop assistant in one clothing store. Me, something changed as well.
Donna Hilargo, Miguel Love, shout out to you, Sisi Koy, Donna.
I don't know the real story and many laugh about this, but the core staff would say this is some kind of respect.
Kita ko na nga yung
Few years
pic
later, the building
ng
got
Bring
sold.
Me.
New hire and contract.
Nalaro. Nakita mo rin?
Found a new job together with two of the maintenance guys. I worked down the workshop, produced spare parts on CNC lathes and milling machines. You guessed it, night shift as well. We're still best friends.
Salamat, Sisi Koy, Donna. Says Donna, hello.
Just ask yourself what you would do if someone threatens your girlfriend, daughter, sister, wife, etc. He made a girl cry and quit her job because he thought he was entitled to non-existent privileges. It was not a one-time oopsie I had about
Ate Donnie, ano to, sis Mayang?
Sure, we could just
Master
do it on
Chief.
police or something like this. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and turn on
Wala magawa si Koy. Sabi ko, ano kaya habang nagluluto ako, mag-live ako. O di, sa awa ng Diyos, marami man kayo dyan nagbantay. O, nandyan kayo, 11 kayo dyan.
Welcome to r/nuclear event. It's a place where we share stories of all forms of extreme events. And today we have two great stories. So subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, my mother and her family friend forced my brother and I to work in their completely mismanaged
Hello, Sally! Sabi ni si Kuya Donna.
Completely broken and spilled something precious. So I blackmailed them to get it back. And the first story, I destroyed my family friend's business and credibility. The background. A few years after I started university, a friend of my mother's, who we will call Cook, started what can be generously called restaurants in a small town a couple hours outside the city we lived in. It was really a glorified hot dog stand and golf course. My mother had invested money into this business, so she had a personal stake in ensuring its success. That meant that she would often enlist us, aka my brother and I, to wait her when she could not do it herself. And my brother hated this guy, so I don't blame him. Cook had no idea how to run a business, and he was completely uninterested in learning. He was also completely computer literate and had me set up a Google account for his business. And in order to get us to work in the business, he would pick one of us up from our home, drive us 2 hours
Ay, bata rin nagsamok-samok ba? Huro ko nagtagaan na rin
until we were
samok
driven
manok.
back, due to the fact that neither of us had a
Samukan ka, ito
job.
rin inahan ka, luto.
And since my brother had problems with this guy, legit concerns that were brushed off as him having a bad attitude, I was the one who more often than not had to spend 2 to 10 days at a time there, stuck in a barely livable house, until I was laid back home.
Okay.
My mother was no better. She would often volunteer us that we would be working 2 days in the middle of the week, making job hunting a very difficult thing for my brother. Furthermore, she treated us not as employees, but as her children. Thus, any mistake was clearly our fault, and not because neither of them could A, train staff, B, use a computer at all.
Init ha, ilagay mo muna dyan para ma-ano na.
Utilized my brother and I in this effective way.
Mainit
Considering
na.
my brother already graduated university, and I was working towards
Talaga, makulit ka talaga, no?
Furthermore, they were completely unprofessional. They would host shouting matches in Chinese, where customers could hear. The kitchen was filthy. Despite Cook's insistence that the kitchen was the cleanest place in the restaurant. Yeah, right. And ice cream was less slippery than
Ayaw,
the
kulit ka
next.
kasi, sabing init, ayaw mo kinig.
And I distinctly remember scooping up what I thought was a green bell pepper, only to realize
Kulit mo, alam na mainit.
in
Init.
the stove area was dripping grease. Literally, a big A drop landed on my arm one time.
Mainit
They could
na.
not train staff at all. They had hired 5 people in the first year, and none of them came back to next. Cook in particular.
Mega love shoutout sa 10 milyon dyan.
He would smile at them and greet them, remembering details from previous conversations, and then turn to me and say in Chinese about how they're all stupid.
Lagyan mo ng ano yan, Madeline.
Money, and the
Tinidor.
All of this left a great feeling of resentment for both me and my brother. Not only was it effectively trapping us to work
ayaw.
as an individual,
Eh, mainit
we
nga
could basically nothing out of it. This was particularly
Kulit
frustrating.
kasi sabi mo,
Because as a
galawit, eh,
business
mainit.
student at the time, I could see all the ways the place could improve. I even offered to write up some policies, do some inventory management, and take a look at the administrative side, just to help out and get some experience for myself. They kept insisting that they didn't need it. Sure, we were paid bare minimum, and the guy didn't know how to cook, but we had to bear the brunt of their frustration, while hiding the fact that we were sick of helping out, until we couldn't anymore. The incident. Last year I graduated university. It was not as happy at a time as it should have been because my grandpa passed away the week
Ikaw
before.
daw, makulit ka talaga daw. Masapang talaga kita daw. Ano mo lang.
Because A, I had to get part of the eulogy the previous day, and B, I had to mediate an incident between my brother, my mother, and Cook, because my mother couldn't. No pre-graduation shots for me, because I was stuck on the phone for 3 hours listening how insensitive Cook was over the fact that my grandpa just passed away. But I figured that once I walked the stage and I had my diploma, I could spend that next week job hunting. No dice. Immediately after I graduated on the Monday afterwards, my mother volunteered me that I had to work 10 days in the health salon. I lasted 6 before it happened. By all accounts, it wasn't
Launa na,
a
di
good
ba,
day to
Chris?
start off with. There was a breakfast brunch
Launa na?
for Father's Day, but barely anyone attended.
Bigutom na
Most
na yung
people that did
kuya.
show up wanted to order off the menu. But both Cook and my mother were incredibly stressed out, and both of them were taking it out on me. My mother spent the day micromanaging me and finding flaws in every little thing I did, like cleaning an empty table over clearing plates, from a table out on the deck, to not immediately refilling coffee or water when a glass or mug was half full.
Pamirindahin
to not
ko
table
muna, guys,
touching
yung
every 5
aking
minutes. Cook just
busing.
shouted a lot and gave contradictory orders every 2 minutes. But it was the combination of my mother and Cook screaming at me for a mistake I didn't even make. Something about a sauce that a customer requested that they got mad about, refusing to listen to me, literally shutting me down when I opened my mouth, and Cook mocking me for breaking down in tears. I remember him saying, "You're 25. You should know better than to cry over a stupid mistake." Made me realize that not only could I not handle it anymore, but I wanted to burn the place to the ground. I booked a flight out of the province that day and left a week later. I didn't even
Salamat sa pagtambay nyo dyan.
The revenge.
Cooking show, ha?
Not only were they completely unprofessional, but also computer illiterate. See, despite the fact that I was
Sis Monique, good morning. Sabi ni si Kuduna. Hello, Sally.
I knew all the violations that he had committed in the business. For the first part of my revenge, I signed out his computer from the Google account. I don't think it was really necessary, since he never used that computer in the first place for anything other than YouTube. But I want to make sure that he and my mother wouldn't be able to stop me. Before I left the province, I claimed the business and review site using the email and the business phone number. Then I blasted every single review, positive or negative, with all the SAT used to say about customers. Any negative review was immediately mocked. Any positive review was left with a note of thank you, you cheap bee. Any questions were met with hostility, and it basically boiled down to I'm right, you're wrong.
Hintay kami. Makikain kami. Dali, si Koy. Luto na pansit.
Given that it was a tourist-based town, I'm fairly certain that deep dip of sales that my brother mentioned later on was because of all those. And no one suspected a thing, because my mother and cook didn't know how to work the internet, and my brother didn't care enough to look up the business. Next, I meticulously documented all the complaints that I had between my brother and myself, as well as the ones from the few people Cook had hired, but never kept because he couldn't train them. I reported the 2 times that I slipped in his kitchen, incidents where he refused to wash his hands in between handling salad and raw meat.
Nasabi ni, ano?
And I handed those off to the
Hintay
health
kami
services
dito.
department.
Makikain
I also anonymously informed the tax revenue agency that he was severely underreporting income, as employees were instructed only to write down the credit debit receipts to report in sales. The third part of my revenge wasn't really my part, to be honest. Rather, it was because of his own incompetence. As I said before, he was completely computer illiterate. I didn't even have to lock out the person he hired to do accounting, because he didn't bother reporting his expenses, except hand him a garbage bag full of receipts. To be honest, I felt kind of sorry for them, but because their hands were tied, they couldn't dispute any of the claims that I made. What I did do, however, was text them all the things that my mother and Cook said about them, so that they wouldn't bother trying to defend his case. They quit a month before SH hit the fan, meaning that Cook was left holding the bag. So naturally, given that the business wasn't making near as much money to make rent, let alone pay off all his fines.
Buti na lang mahaba yung cord ng kamera, kaya umabot dito yung
For
kamera.
everything in the dinky little house that he was renting for business purposes.
Sikip ng kusina ko dito sa Sikoy, Monique.
Because of all the health code
Grabe.
violations, he couldn't find a job as a cook again, which was his only job for about 30 years. And because the tax revenue agency knew how bad he was with managing businesses, they naturally denied him.
MNJ Junalin video.
As far as I know, he's no longer in contact with his family. But his brother-in-law, who's my mom's hairstylist, mentioned that he had to move somewhere else to get away from all the bad reputation. My mother mostly got off
May bike pa, mga
because all
bata.
the
Ay,
business
nako.
permits and licenses were under
Oo
his
nga
name.
pala, no, ba't hindi na lang ito dinala doon sa kabilang bahay?
And last I heard, my family had to move into a smaller house. And no one knew that I was the
Oo nga
one
pala,
who was giving
bante,
it.
pag ano
My
nga,
brother
isakay nyo nga
suspected
tulo
that
sa
he
ano,
really
para
detailed
dalhin
what
ang doon sa
happened to me,
kabila.
but I never confirmed it. Not that he was
Alis
telling
na doon,
me.
kasi
Sikip
kuya
lang yan
lang
dito
yan.
eh.
As for me, I'd like to say that everything's sunshine and roses, but my decision to impulsively move provinces had its ups and downs. I did manage to find a place to live and a place to work, so at least I'm alive. It's hard, but I'd rather be doing this than going back. The next story is no proof, no problem.
Ginamit niyo ba yung ay?
Best friend.
Ha?
I manage a bar, and one day I came in to see the place go
Para
to ransack.
maanuhan ng dumi.
Thankfully, but weirdly nothing was stolen, which meant it was someone with a personal vendetta. I had recently fired an employee who I suspected had done it. We hadn't been able to get his keys back yet, so he had a way to get in and knew the alarm code, since he would open the bar sometimes. I went to my office and saw that the lock on the door had been smashed in, and the CCTV footage was deleted. The only thing that was missing was a clay mold of my dog's paw print I had taken right before she passed away. This dog was my first pet and was my best friend. I always loved her and had brought her into the bar a couple times on my days off. We let pets on the patio, so all the employees knew how much she meant to me. I kept the mold on my desk and always have it with me. I was sure it was him. He hadn't taken his firing so well. But with no absolute proof, I couldn't just outright accuse him. The bar is a bikini bar, and the dude was a total creep. On multiple occasions, he had made disgusting comments to the girls. The cherry on top was he came in drunk and cursed the girl working. Men who came in could be gross, but the things he would say and did were on another level altogether. When I
Ane,
called
ako na
him,
nigi
he asked where they'd
palambot.
been. He totally outed
Itimplahan.
himself. Before I could even ask him.
Kaya ang kulang na lang nito, itrito na lang.
I just smiled.
Ayaw ko siyang i-oven, gawa ng hindi maganda sa oven. Ayaw ko, mas maganda yung nakaprito talaga.
The police couldn't do SH though with the camera footage deleted. All I had was him knowing how
Masarap
on
ang
Saturday. Plus the damage wasn't too bad. Just a lot of smashed plates and the lock on the door. So there wouldn't be too much to sue him for if I did get through. So I decided to get even and get my dog's paw print back. He only deleted the night of the break, not the rest of the footage. So I combed through hours of footage to find the time he had slapped the girl day and grabbed at her teeth. But I found something even better. On the camera pointing to the back alley, he was kissing some chick. Definitely not his wife, up against his car. Jesus, this dude was an idiot. He even smiled and waved at the camera. I copied the footage to a
So,
USB stick and put it in
ano
the
na to
envelope.
siya, yung
I knew he had another job, so I waited there until he showed up and went inside. I stuck the
Templado na to
envelope under
eh.
his windshield wiper with a note. Be ready
Pero,
to give back what you stole, for this will start
lagyan pa rin
popping up
natin ng
everywhere you
timpla
go.
para may
It
lasa
didn't
pa
take
rin.
long for him to text me. I played dumb and acted like I knew nothing about it. But it sounds like whatever you took was important to the person. He told me to F off and said he didn't have whatever I thought he took. I still played dumb. The next day I left another USB in the mailbox. I knew his address from his W-2, and another on his windshield wiper again for good measure. I guess he found them both, because I received another string of texts asking what the F is wrong with me. I still played dumb, but told him to give back whatever the person was asking for, and it would probably stop. He said he didn't have to offer and he was going to the police. Man, this guy was as dumb as a bag of rocks. I told him only I offering was taken. Now I had proof he broke into the police. No response. I'm no lawyer, but pretty sure what I was doing was just as illegal as him breaking in, if not worse. And he would have had a good case on his hands for blackmail. But he was dumb and probably just wanted it to all go away. Safe to say the next day, one of my bartenders told me that the guy that was fired dropped off his keys in a package for me. In the package was my paw print broken in half with a letter. It basically said he was sorry, and he didn't mean to break it, and was just peeved he got fired, and to please stop leaving the video. I debated for a good while if I should send the video to his wife anyways, but I found out she was divorcing him because she had found the one in the mailbox. Thank you for watching.
It's the Panda 7th birthday. Tapo for pagkain, tapo for inumin. It's the Panda.
Welcome to r/Petty Revenge, where we share stories of small victories over those who have wronged you. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. Today's story is Horrible Camper Nearly Injures Someone. I Get Some Spooky Revenge. Background info. I worked at a summer camp for kids aged 7 to 17, starting when I was a sophomore in high school. The season lasted for 8 weeks, and during that time, a kid could stay anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks at a time. It was an awesome job, and I had a great time, and met a lot of awesome people. It's also where I met the girl I'm now engaged to, but there were a few parts of the job that were bothersome. The primary issue was that dealing with viciously awful campers was something of an uphill battle, as the higher-ups of the camp could rarely help you. The head counselor or director would usually have a chat with the camper, but then send them right back to you to do more disturbing. The owner told us we were never allowed to call the kid's parents and pick them up, unless there was a medical emergency, or they endangered a camper or staff member. So basically, some kids got a relatively free pass to be little monsters, for up to a month at a time, as there was nothing.
Tots.
Carlitos, bilisan mo dyan. Si Papa mo na si CR na.
Ano, iba na? May bago din ano. Siguro. Iba na, baka si Pacquiao, si Layla.
Oh?
Ganyan eh.
Angela.
Mga hero. Nagano sila pula ha?
Binayaran na kami.
Binayaran. Ito sila. Ano yung kalaban? Punch siya.
Bakyawan doon.
Nagano lako-lako.
Lapu-lapu.
Hero yung
Ano
lako-lako.
siya, may sword.
Short yung pang ano na. Bas. Layla Divino.
Okay na, buhay. Natimplado na yan, inadubo ko na yan ng kagabi, tapos tinimplahan ko lang uli para malasang malasa ba.
Pwede ka nagutan mo.
Labo muna ako, sige lang, si Koy, no problem si Koy. Go ahead. Dito pa ako si Koy, matagal pa ako dito.
Muna na nabinin.
Yan. Gawin ko crispy pata yan. Or bicol. May pa nga siguro, bicol ko na lang yan. Meron naman tayong lechon ulo eh.
Ikaw malaglag ko.
Salamat sa inyo dyan. Yung mga nagtambay, salamat talaga. May feeding ba si Sikoy? Oo, meron. Mga kapitbahay lang. At saka yung pupunta. Ayaw nga niya na ano eh. Ayaw nga magpahanda eh. Sabi ko, sura ulo ka man. Bakit ayaw handa? Kahit sabihin mo bang isang putahe lang eh, handa pa rin yan.
Ba't yun na rin? Ano lang kami? Bangus.
Ha?
Yung birthday nila rin.
Ah,
2 pirasong bangus.
sabi nga ni kuya mo eh. Tingnan mo sila rin, bakit ang taba-taba na ngayon? Ang laki-laki daw ng tiyan.
Di, gusto yun. May gusto
Ang mayabang na talaga, mahaw-haw ka man.
Tanong. Gusto mo mag-pizza mo ito, ha? Pizza. Tapos sa gulalog. Mango shake. Kasi di ko gagawin nga ganahan ka kanon.
We could really
Malambyo ka man.
The other important thing to
Doon
know
ka talaga.
is that the same cabins as the staff members. Usually 12 campers and 3 staff. And the most legendary is all camper and bedtime stories. I have a million of them, and they come in 3 primary kinds. Humorous stories to make kids laugh, boring historical stories to make them fall asleep quickly, and ghost stories to give them a good ride. My policy is to
Tingnan mo pag napalo ka din dito, yari ka talaga.
and only if the cabin agrees they all hear it. However, during my second summer camp, there was a camper who temporarily changed that policy. The nightmare. This kid was around 9 years old, and I'm going to call him Tyler.
Matay,
Tyler
saha.
was staying for a 1-week
Mas
session.
masarap pa nga yung sarap ng mura. Liit lang yung ano, yung pinapay tulad mo itong mahal nga.
On most weekends,
Sure, Dan. Ate, salamat. An, Mata, salamat.
was coming home to stay over the weekend, so most of us were already exhausted. As the new kids for the week arrived, most of us are keeping the kids for the weekend entertained, while the others, including me, are waiting the fresh campers for the coming week to check in.
Slice ka din.
Tyler was checked in, accompanied by his mom and older brother.
Jowa.
He brought his things down to my cabin.
Si Inday makahurot og tatlong
After
slice.
making the typical counselor
Sugan,
small talk with
kaon.
his mom, I made my way over to his bunk to introduce myself.
Tatlong
Our first
slice.
interaction
Kung
was
ngayon
something
ako
like
yung
this.
niya, tirahan siya.
Me. Hey man, my name's T. Gecko. What's yours? Tyler. Bite me.
Mga kasi sige na din ang pizza.
I stood there kind of
Sabi
stunned,
niya
and
mga
my
karo.
co-counselor ran after her.
Pila din po
His
na
mom
pizza.
apologized for
Mura lang,
and I let it
sabi,
fly,
sinta.
because I figured he was nervous about being away from home. First time camping
Ginahan
with
mo
me,
muna nga na
big
no, gusto
mistake.
ng mahalon.
Side note, Bite me turned into his catchphrase. I later
Oh,
learned that
bagat na sila ba?
who I also had as a camper, and was also a pain, though not as severe. The rest of the day
Malis
was
ka dyan.
uneventful. We introduced ourselves to the new
Oh,
campers,
hanap na
played
siya na yung
video
makikita
games,
yun sa
played
mga
each other
kutuban.
games, and have a good time.
Sabi ko, akyat ka doon, akyat ka. Tapos bumaba, dahan-dahan. Sabi niya,
Until we get to the campfire. Each week at camp,
Sira
we
ulo
go to the campfire. The kids gather around and watch the staff amuse them by leading
Oh,
songs and
yung
performing
singos
skits.
papa.
We do
Tita,
the same once
tita.
every week,
Buwang
and
ang
it
gas
can get a
tita,
little
mong
stale,
tawag.
but my fellow staff were awesome, so it was still a fun time. However, controlling
Dang,
ourselves,
dang,
especially
halika, may
when
sasabihin ako,
we're
dali.
some might fidget a bit,
May
ask
chocolate
to go to
ako,
the
bahala ka,
bathroom
hindi
a
ka
dozen
bibigyan.
times, or try to wander away
Di
from the
ba?
campfire. But that's typical
Yabang ka,
kid behavior
kapantalon
we're
ka
used
ba
to.
makagkurik?
Tyler took things to another level. He complained loudly that every skit or song was boring, and no amount of coaching
Dali.
could convince him to stop. When he wasn't doing that, he asked me to go to the bathroom, a little less than a quarter-mile walk back up the hill to camp.
Yabang talaga
No
ng
fewer
pikot
than
ka
9 times. I don't care how little you are, you
Ganahan
need
pa
to
ka
use the
sa
bathroom
mata.
9 times in
Yabang.
90 minutes.
Babay ang mga.
Finally, the last straw came when Tyler picked up a decent-sized stick and threw it directly into the fire, causing a huge shower of sparks. Throwing anything at or into the fire is the #1 no-no at campfire, and we tell kids that at the beginning of the event. Plus, he could have easily hurt one of the staff with a stick or the
Yun na
sparks.
guys.
At this point, I received a covert head nod from the
Sayo,
director,
sayo,
which means
sayo.
we have to toilets where it's
Trabaho,
well.
nag-isi ang sili. Yung
I
anak,
know the director himself was
Ah,
beside us. The director explained carefully that what he did was dangerous, and that the owner of the camp was going to come talk with us. It was getting late now, and I asked the director if I should return to my cabin and the other campers. He said no, so I stayed in the office for over an hour, while Tyler poked and prodded me. Every time I looked over to ask him to stop, he just turned and gave me the biggest SH eating grin you've ever seen. The owner finally arrived. She's a piece of work, but that's another
Dong.
story. And basically told us that since it was only the
Sara
first
mo na
day,
yan.
they didn't want to send Tyler home.
Ikaw ba, bukas ka na bukas sa rep, tamaan ka talaga sa akin. Yeah.
No SH was acting out. But it was obvious they didn't want to send him home because they would have to refund his mom's money. I escorted Tyler back to the cabin, now furious. Not only was he being a little SH, but he'd also made me miss the last part of campfire and putting the kids to bed. Bedtime on the first day is a crucial time, and I always make sure to visit each child and talk about their day. Now, I wouldn't get to do that or tell a good story. Not only that, but after I put the little booger to bed, he kept me until midnight asking for multiple cups of water. The next day, I was in
Ikaw talaga sa lawayin, ka talagang bata ka talaga.
Being a camp counselor, you learn to deal with being tired as a way of life. Each day, the children go to 5 activity periods of their choosing, with lunch in between. Each staff member teaches 4 one-hour activity blocks and gets 1 hour off. My activities that week were clay sculpting, archery, canoeing, and improv games. I was excited because improv and archery are my favorite
Abay,
activities.
iniwan ako ng dipungal.
Who's in both of those blocks? Effing Tyler.
Dipungal, nasaan ka na?
He continuously caused disruptions in both classes. And his other three
Nag-change
activities.
oil ka na naman siguro.
He whined constantly when he was told it was another camper's turn to lead improv games. Constantly stepped over others' lines and made rude and terrible jokes that ruined the scene. On Tuesday, he picked on a girl so relentlessly that she cried. During archery, he often pretended he didn't hear my instructions and fired his arrows off turn. When kids are that young, we have to tell them exactly when to let the arrow go. There's no way I can prove it, but I'm also sure he fired at least 3 arrows into the woods on purpose. Over the course of the week, I took him to the director's office 3 more times for unruly behavior during an activity or meal period. All 3 times, the director gave
Ano
me
kay
talking to,
bugutan dai?
which of course did nothing. I could have done that. I was getting more and more frustrated. Tyler was ruining an otherwise awesome week, as the other 11
Meme?
kids in my cabin were all model kids who were fun to teach. Finally, I snapped when Tyler actually endangered another kid's life at the archery range. As I said, we have to give kids instructions on when to do everything, which includes retrieving arrows. Obviously, firing at the target while kids are
Ganyan din, bait dito sa amin sa si. Nakabalandra sa kusina. Aw, kala ko ako lang si Kuy. Kaya nga sabi ko, dalhin doon sa kabilang bahay.
Mahulog.
The small storage shed and not move. I am absolutely serious. So I leave the other campers with
Galing kami ni Banji doon eh, naglinis kami doon kahapon.
I'm calling the owner and getting my efforts done now.
Yung may papa
I
ko.
call the owner's direct line, and I can talk to
Nagpapa-entry din kayo? Sige lang si Kuy.
He tells me that it doesn't make for the incident. They're going to take away Tyler's snack for the rest of the week. When I remind her that he could have killed the kid, she tells me that she wants to not pursue it because it's my word against his, and the other kid's parents could sue. As he talks, I'm continuing to try not to smack her.
Entry kasi Kuy, hakot na naman yung kidnap ko. Grabe talagang takot ko si Kuy. Ay, Diyos ko, sabi ko sa'yo.
During my off hour,
Ang bilis ko talaga pinatay. Kaya pinatay ko kaya ang sakit ang tainga ko eh.
I did everything I could. As soon as I sit down, though, Tyler sits at my table.
Naka-multiple tab ka pala. Parang ako ka pala pag ano.
Can't wait to do it again.
Grabe talaga.
The revenge. At this point, I start thinking of anything I can do to make this kid feel some.
Pagtapos ng kidlat, pumunta kami doon sa kabilang bahay. Tinignan ko, baka may mga tulo. Wala naman sa awa ng Diyos, wala naman. Delikado yun.
Now, as I mentioned before, I never tell ghost stories to kids.
Maigi kung hindi nakasaksak yung computer ko.
Older kids love my stories because they feel a little creeped out, but overall enjoy the story and just go to bed after. With little kids, it can be a disaster. If they don't stay up all night freaked out, then they become catatonic at breakfast the next day. And
Hinugot ko. Pinatay ko na. Kaya sabi ng asawa ko, bakit mo pinatay? Sabi ko, ay nako, hindi ko papatayin. Mamaya masira pa yung computer ko. Bahala na lang yan sa'yo. Masira akin, wag lang.
I'm done, babe.
Okay, Papa. Kunin mo, Je.
Ubus ang bata, saba kayo.
Wait a minute lang.
Saba kayo.
That's why I never tell scary stories to small children, except when they deserve it, i.e. Tyler. So over the next few days, I start doing a little research. I want to find out what Tyler's scared of and get into his head. It has to be perfect. Something that will scare the absolute SH out of Tyler, but not mess up my other kids, who as mentioned are model campers. So after observing him the rest of the day and the next day, I think I might have something. During my off hour, I know that Tyler has an activity in the arts and crafts building. So I take my hour off making friendships with other kids in the building, which if you you've never received a friendship bracelet from a kid, it's just about the most adorable activity ever. Plus, I'm earning some bonus points with my director for using my
Monique.
hour off to watch kids. So it's
Di ka nagpa-entry kay Pink, 29 mo na?
And one eye on Tyler at the craft table. The pivotal moment happens 20 minutes into the period.
Di ka nagpa-entry kay Madam, Madam 29? Pink 29?
He screams like a baby and yells at the counselor in charge to kill it. The counselor flicks the spider off onto the ground, and Tyler is wary of that spot for the rest of the period. So bingo, he's afraid of spiders. I knew that night would be my last chance, as Tyler would be leaving the next afternoon. So I spent the rest of the day crafting an absolutely beautiful, scary story about a giant spider catching a kid in his web. During dinner, I half paid attention to kids, and half thought of the details of the story I'd tell that night. It was not my best counseling, but the payoff made it worth it in the end. Finally, that night, I asked the cabin if they'd like to hear a spooky story. Everyone said yes enthusiastically, especially Tyler. So I let him have it, telling a ridiculous 20-minute story about a child who looked suspiciously like Tyler, getting caught in the web of a giant spider. I embellished the SH out of this story, making creepy spider noises and using my best overly dramatic voice. The best part is that every other camper thought it was hysterical, while Tyler looked like he was going to SH his pampers. My co-counselor, who figured out exactly what I was doing, was roaring with laughter the entire time. That night, Tyler stayed up for a long time. He continuously asked my co-counselor to come over and talk to him. I waited eagerly each time for him to return to the counselor room to tell me what he was actually saying. He told me that Tyler asked him multiple times if the giant spider of County was actually real. We stifled laughter, and eventually everyone drifted off to sleep peacefully. The next day was move-out day, and Tyler was absolutely miserable. He didn't say anything at breakfast or lunch, which is always pizza on move-out day. I asked him what was wrong, and he kept telling me nothing. Ironically, this was the day he was best behaved out of the whole week. Finally, his mom and dad arrived to pick him up along with his brother. Everyone on staff was looking forward to this, and I saw more than a few other counselors watching the action from the porches of their cabin. Tyler's mom comes up to the porch, says hi, and we exchange pleasantries. Tyler comes out of the cabin with his stuff, and his dad asks how his week at camp was. Tyler immediately starts crying hysterically. His mom hugs him, cooing softly and telling him it's okay. He can come back next year. Tyler doesn't say anything. He keeps crying. After 10 minutes or so of this, his dad gets fed up, apologizes to me, and grabs Tyler's SH. He then tells him they're going to the car. I watch and wait politely as they leave, and can't help but put on a giant SH-eating grin as Tyler looks back at the cabin. The best part for me, though, was something I actually heard from another staff member. Apparently, when Tyler was being dragged to the car crying, his dad told him he would never come to camp again if he kept acting up like he was. I don't know how much justice...
Oh, Litson ko ko, Litson.
Tyler never did come back to camp, although his brother did, and I would happily trade Tyler for his brother any day. Sometimes when his brother came to camp later, I would see Tyler, and he would always look away from me immediately. His parents were great, though. No idea how such a bond came from nice parents. Thanks for watching.
Sarap niyan, ate. Dali ka, alikaan. Kain tayo. Magluluto ako uli ng pozole. Pozole. Dalawa pa nga lang, tatlo pa nga lang naluluto ko, pansit, ito, at saka yung lumpiang toge.
Welcome to r/Petty Revenge, where we share stories of small victories over those who have wronged you.
Birthday ng asawa ko ngayon, sa Marmata.
And the first story is, our sandwich making skills aren't fresh enough? Well, we won't be serving bologna at this location anymore, ma'am. This is a story about the little things in life. Pettiness, sandwiches, and the price of being an SH person. I worked at a big, at the time, chain sandwich shop about a decade ago. I was a young, fresh-faced teen about as intimidating as a free pamphlet getting knocked around an empty parking lot by the wind.
Happy birthday po kay Kuya. God bless. Salamat.
That's a nice door. 17 years old. Cool guy manager. Male. 29 years old. Lazy owner's wife. OW. 40s. An SH customer. Let's call her thin-lipped. TL. Mid-30s because she always made that pursed lip face. I had just started working at the store, getting used to the job and regulars. About the same time, TL started to make herself known. She starts off being huffy and rude, but we just laugh it off as her being a mid-30s upper-middle-class entitled white lady. It's fun. You get them all the time. And in plays Dawn of Ashes over the speakers sometimes, so it's going to happen. She told us one day she came to our store because it was close, and her young twins and husband loved it, but continued to be rude. Still totally whatever. Then she starts to get mad and become a nuisance. Her twins need the exact same thing.
Ano meron hus kapatid TV vlog? Mega love shoutout. Birthday po ng aking husband.
Because she didn't like the way it looked, or she decided she did want lettuce after all. We keep her happy because OW doesn't tolerate unhappy customers, and will drive her Mercedes SUV to the store and chew us out. After a few months, TL thinks she deserves extra special treatment because she's there 3 times a week, and now we cannot do anything right in her eyes. She even refuses to let him make her food because she doesn't like him and wants it done by someone else. Finally, one shift she comes in when I'm acting manager. All that means is I turned down assistant manager because of twice the responsibility and a 15-cent raise, but they still gave me most of the management power. And after TL demanding we pull fresh food from the back and telling
Oh, nakaluto na ako ng ano dito. Pansit.
She gave me a hard time on the price. I had to substitute things on her order to keep her happy, and it came out to be less than her normal charge, which she didn't realize till 5 minutes of me trying to show her. Then asked to see the manager. It's my time to shine. Keeping myself from grinning, hunching over and villain-style cackling, I tell her that I am the manager on duty, and if she has any issues, she can take it up with me. She argues.
Seafood pansit na seafood.
She glares and leaves. Tim thinks it's hilarious, and OW is just glad she didn't have to come in and do anything. I feel smug because I peeved her off without breaking any rules. We aren't even close to being done. For some brevity, here are the bullet points of what she does over the next few weeks. Makes female coworkers cry because TL berates her. Complains even more. An example, this can of soda doesn't taste the same as from store X. Talks down to him on her order total because he isn't quick at math, and says she wants that tonight's store to come do it. By the way, she was wrong. Brings her kids in.
Sige, win. Sige, win.
Tells us how hard she has it with
Premier na pala ni ano, ni Ate Mal. Sige, sige, sige. Salamat, Owen, ha?
Tight-lipped and furious. Sorry I asked if you wanted a drink. Threatens to call the health department. Calls the health department, which gets us in trouble with OW. Not because we were being unsanitary, M was strict about cleanliness, but because OW had to buy more cleaning products and replace old sinks. And she still came to our store. I was on my last leg with this job. We had to do something. OW would just comp TL's meal instead of ever disrespect the customer. This was even worse because OW was rarely there, and TL liked getting free food, but only OW was allowed to comp meals. The perfect opportunity came after a few more visits from TL. OW and her husband are Indian, which only matters to contextualize the contempt they showed for people below them. And because oddly enough, they seem to hate other brown-skinned people. I don't understand it, but it's been explained to me by Indian.
Jel, results birthday ni GC ngayon, Jel. Nagluto ng pansit na seafood, fried chicken, saka maglitso ng ulo. Ito,
It worked like a charm. OW was extremely offended and started to come in around TL's normal time to see for herself.
Nandun na yung ano, pansit ko, naluto na.
TL going off and to help diffuse the situation. But OW didn't know what she was doing. And did
Fried chicken, tapos magluto pa ako ng pusule.
They were in a shouting match. All the anger of being insulted by TL seemed to fuel OW's rage, and finally told her to never come back to the store again. TL said she would take her business to the further store, and that we were awful. But of course, TL called and demanded to talk to the owner.
Ang sahog ng pansit ko is baboy at saka kunting baboy at saka ano nga tawag niya, Matres? Tahong.
The real petty part was how much we had to do to make her suffer just a little bit.
Tahong yan, tahong.
Drive an extra 14 minutes 3 times a week and pay full price at a store that was marketing for them special treatment. The second story is, oh, so you're in a rush? Have fun being late for your movie. I work at a movie theater. It's not a huge chain like AMC, but the owners have quite a few of them. The work environment is great, but when we get busy, there are often times where I question why I do all of this SH for minimum wage.
Depende sa pagluto mo, Jel.
There was one line open to buy tickets, and 2 lines to buy concessions. All 3 lines were out the door. But as we were the only
Picturean ko, ipakita ko sa iyo din, picturean ko, pakita ko sa iyo. Luto ko
people
tahong.
were willing to wait in line. Now enter D customer. He looks exactly like you'd expect him to. Middle-aged, balding, trailed by a small pilgrimage of ill-behaved children. The male equivalent of the "Can I speak to your manager" haircut. DC had bought his tickets online. The receipt he received says you still have to have an attendee to print them out. We have signs posted everywhere saying you still have to have an attendee print them out. Yet for some reason, when DC went up to our ticket taker with just his receipts and was told he needed an attendee to print them out, he acted like a Copernicus just informed them the Earth went around the sun. People make this mistake all the time, and usually if they're polite about the whole thing, it's no problem to let them zip in front of the line real quick and print out their tickets.
Ayan na, nakita mo na.
Waiting on their concessions. DC, as I'm sure you can guess, was not polite. He storms up to the front of my concession line with the fury only a truly wrong man can possess.
Ayun na, pinakita ko na sa'yo.
He pushes the old lady I'm serving out of the way with his shoulder and slams down his receipts on the counter, making my pen drop to the floor, might I add. His eyes burning with a fiery rage at 1,000 dying suns. And yet I still would have probably printed out his ticket to be.
Alam mo kasi, Jill, dati nung may resto pa ako sa Cavite, yung pansit bato na yan sa akin, mabilis lang yung mabinta. Panganay ko lang magluluto niyan dyan, ubos agad.
So just hurry up and print them real quick so that we can make it, huh, sweetie? You see, this was DC's grave mistake. That effing dumbass.
Panganay ko mahilig din magluto eh. Turo ko lang sa kanyang ganyan, wala na, siya na magluluto noon.
He's worked at this place for longer than I've been alive. Routinely buys donuts for the whole crew, and has a surprising amount of knowledge about medieval Europe. To insult Phil was to insult everybody at our workplace. And by God, I would not stand for it. I put on my best smile. I'm sorry, sir, but I'm helping another customer right now. You'll have to wait in the ticket line if you want your tickets to be printed out. I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but at least now you know for next time. DC looks behind and towards the ticket
Yan o,
line.
dyan kayo
It's
magbawas
still out the
pansit
door.
kay mamaya
Hasn't
na
moved
ito
more than 5 feet since the interaction started. It has to be at least a 20
Damihan
minute
mo
wait.
ang kuha dyan ang sulat.
Black Panther now starts in exactly 7 minutes, and the theater is almost full. I can see the wheels begin to turn in DC's head as he realizes there's no way for his entire clan of manlet spawn to fit into the theater together at this point. It's at that point when he should have resorted to begging, but a manlet's pride is his only shield. We're gonna
Saan mo lalagay yan,
I
Jess?
just need those D tickets printed.
Magsikip na yan, kaya nga tinakpan ko dito para hindi magsikip. Karni yan eh, tinakpan ko.
I'm sorry, sir, but we're just too busy at the moment. We'll have to wait in line with everybody else. The conversation is over, and I help the next customer. The fire in DC's eyes dies as he realizes he does have to wait in line like the rest of the comic book. And I didn't think I'd feel any greater satisfaction than when I saw him crawl to the back of the ticket line. At least until I saw him again 30 minutes later, giving his ticket to Bill, rampaging for the children behind him, screaming about how they're missing the movie. So remember, kids, please and thank you goes a long way. Never ever insult the people responsible for your tickets. And the last story is, why is the server sitting at our VIP table? The context, my strange job. It's not a common situation, so I think a bit of clarification is needed here. I used to work as a youth animator for the church. I was not a voluntary worker. It was my job. I was
Wala pa akong nag-almusal nga ba
considers
ako?
that the
Konti
religion is
pala.
a public utility service. A parish asked my boss to send someone to help them. They wanted someone to take care of their young people. That's how I ended up working for them. Most of my work consisted in taking care of the spiritual and human sides of those teenagers.
Pag nagkapera lang ako, mahal kasi shipping fee. Dami pa padala na kaibigan ko vlogger, tatlong balot, pansit, 300 bayad ko, pa yung plastic na pinang balot. Oh, grabe naman ang mahal naman yan, Jill.
Being in my early 20s at the time, I was just considered a teenager in chief. I could get along with that, but I felt it was unfair to treat those teenagers like cheap maids. And as I always helped the youth when they were working, I was the cheap maid in chief. The dinner, it was my second year working for them. I received an email from the parish saying something like, "Oh, we forgot to tell you. There's this important dinner in 2 weeks to thank all the people who work in the parish. 10 youth will help." It was not a question, but a fact.
Natanggap mo na yung pinadala ni Sis Mel, Jill?
The kitchen and the dining place at the end. But it was worth it. They would get a small sandwich at the end. Yay.
Akin hindi ko pa natanggap, Jill.
They refused. I did not insist. Actually, I was happy they did. I informed the parish. They were angry.
Sa akin, hindi ko pa natanggap. Wala pa daw sa munisipyo.
I went to that dinner. I made sure to arrive a bit early. The person in
Ewan ko.
charge, the phone, Mr. P. Mr. P. greeted me with a big smile. Mr. P. "Oh, it's nice that you guys changed your mind. You'll find aprons in the kitchen." Me. I'm alone. Mr. P. Smile quickly fading away. "What? You'll do the work alone?" Me. "Of course not." I could see a spark of hope in his eyes. "You asked the youth, not me. I won't work for you today." Mr. P. "So what are you doing here?" Me. "Well, it's a dinner to thank the people who work here. I work here. I want to eat." The look on his face was priceless. They had forgotten to invite me. The only thing I was supposed to eat was a little ham sandwich at the end. I knew it. He could not send me away. That's precisely why I showed up. There was a table with a mic, tablecloth, flowers, and only 6 seats in the middle of the room. It was clearly a VIP table. The priest, the president,
Kaya nga, i-check niya sa POS, sa USA. Sabi nga niya, si Kuya, tingnan mo ba, nandyan na yan siguro. Nung papunta ko kasi wala eh.
Like the people from the choir, the people who are managing little clubs and societies, the ladies from Sunday school, etc. Without a word, I sat at the VIP.
Ay, ang ganda. Ang ganda ng pangit.
Oh, I'm sorry. You are not supposed to sit here. Why? I could almost hear the gears in his mind grinding and spinning hopelessly as he tried to find an answer. The answer never came. My job did not look prestigious at all, but in fact, I was clearly important enough to sit here. I even got to watch him as he quickly added a chair to the table. Bonus, 4 out of the 5 other VIP looked as surprised as Mr. Patronizing when they arrived at the table. That's right, people.
Hindi, mamaya na
Tonight,
ako
the
muna
circle
kumalang
featured
magtagsikan.
VIP. They found other volunteers. They asked around, and they found enough of them. They discovered there are some people who don't like to go to the Mass on Sunday, but are glad to help and be useful when they're given the occasion. And that was great. If you want more stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Bye. Welcome to r/Petty Revenge, where we share stories of small victories over those who wronged you. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes.
Akin natin ang luto
And the
tayo.
first story is, she tried to stop me from saving a man's life. I worked in an emergency room, ER, for 6 years, so I'm full of stories. But when it comes to Petty Revenge, this one sticks out in my memory. P equals patient. PD equals patient's daughter.
Cebuana brother, Cordoba.
Every person who's worked in ER knows that Mondays are the busiest days of the week, and also when all the crazies come out. This day was no different. I worked as a nurse in triage, where you initially get assessed in the front before going to the back. Here we determine who needs to go back first and who can wait. It's not a first come, first served basis as most people think. We had a few stretchers in front for people who needed to be monitored a little further, or needed IVs, blood draws, labs. There were 6 stretchers, but this day was so busy, all 6 stretchers were filled, plus 5 more in the hallway. This lady comes in on an ambulance, but because her symptoms did not indicate an emergency,
Huwag ka manghingi nito, akin na to.
to wait her turn. She was
Hindi kita bibigyan ng ano,
After assessment, I recognized her symptoms as being positive gallstones. Painful, but not life-threatening. We put her on a stretcher, started in an IV, relaxed, and hooked her up to the monitor just in case. A few minutes later,
lumpiang
PD comes to the front door.
tubig.
One look at her and we knew she would cause problems.
Lumpiang
She had
tubig.
everything from the shoes to the haircut. A classic rich Karen. When she saw that her mom was still in the front and hadn't seen the doctor yet, she started screaming that she knew the CEO of the hospital and that we would all be fired if we didn't get her mom back to see a doctor right now. We explained that her mom has a history of gallstones, and even P was saying that she has had this pain many times because of the gallstones. We explained about
Mega love shoutout sa 7 million natin dyan.
and we'll get her back as soon as we could. She eventually calmed down, but was still antsy. About an hour later, another patient, CB, comes in and was put in the stretcher beside P and PD. This patient had worrying complaints, but on initial assessment, we could not find anything wrong. Now, as a nurse, you learn to always trust your gut. When your gut sounds an alarm, you listen. Something about this patient was setting my alarm bells off, but all his vitals were normal, and I had no solid evidence to declare him an emergency. I hooked him up to the monitor and kept a very close eye on him. I let the charge nurse know of my concerns, and she said to let her know as soon as something changes. Not 5 minutes later, something changed. Now, at this time, I should explain that this hospital was a level 1 trauma center.
Hindi ko bigyan si Indraya Torto.
From car crashes to gunshot victims.
Ay, nang ano.
We were in the middle of gang territory. Since we had to be ready for any traumas,
Ay, naku,
life-threatening
hindi talaga.
injuries,
Diyos
we had a
ko.
room with 3 beds that was closed off from the rest of the beds, because traumas usually involved a lot of people and a lot of blood. Even on busy days like this one, those rooms were empty, unless there was a trauma patient. Now back to CP. I was taking vital signs of P when I looked over to CP. I noticed a worrying change in his rhythm and stopped with P to start assessing CP to see what was going on. That did not sit well with PD. She actually grabbed my arm and told me to finish with her mom. I jerked my arm free and said I had to make sure CP was okay. As I turned around to CP, his rhythm went into VBIB, life-threatening rhythm. I called the charge nurse to inform her of CP's condition, all the while unhooking CP from the monitor and throwing his bed into drive. As I started pushing him back, PD actually jumps in front of the stretcher and stops it. She's screaming that her mom was here first and needed to be seen before CP, and screaming that I was the liar and she was going to get me fired. I'm usually a mild-tempered person, but knowing CP was literally minutes from dying, and I said to PD, "You have a choice. Get out of my way or get run over." As I started pushing the stretcher forward, now I'm really good at pushing stretchers fast and getting the patient where he needed to go in a hurry. One of the reasons I was part of the trauma team. PD tried to stand firm, but she saw I wasn't going to stop and jumped out of the way as I was an inch from hitting her. Unfortunately, she did not move fast enough, and I ended up running over her foot. At this point, I didn't care and got the patient back to the trauma room, leaving PD screaming on the floor. We spent about 30 minutes on CP, but he ended up dying. By the time I got back up front, P and PD had been taken to the back to see a doctor. But my charge nurse warned me that they were filing a complaint against me. A few days later, the actual CO of the hospital came to visit me on my next shift. He was known to be a kind and fair man. Since this happened during a time before cameras were put in the ERs, he had to take what happened from word of mouth. Apparently, PD said I assaulted her several times and put her mom's life in danger by not assessing her properly, that I should be fired. Turns out that P actually did have gallstones and nothing else. Also, PD's foot was broken due to me running over it.
Main sila doon, gusto daw nila
And the
nitong
PD's actions might have ended up in CP dying because of the
Ano?
delay she caused by her actions.
kaya
When I got to the
naguna-una
part
ako
of what
ng
I said
piraso.
to PD and running over her foot, the CEO actually started laughing and then tried to cover his mouth to hide his laughter. He explained that PD was a friend of his sister and he knows what kind of person she is. Not only did I not get fired, he put a personal note in my
Bawal ang
mouth
pangit
praising
bata
my
eh.
actions. On my next review, I got a large
Oo,
raise and a
kailangan
bonus
maganda ka ba?
thanks to the CEO's note. The second story is, jerk coworker is rude to an old lady because he wants to leave early. I make him stay late. When I was 16, I worked at a bakery and cafe, specifically in the bakery section. I sold pastries and made the drinks, and other people manned the actual sandwich, soup, and salad area. We all worked very well together, had good managers, and had the lunch rush or closing cleanup routine down. Then there was him. I'll call him AA, because he had a name that started with A, and was also an a-hole, and he probably could have used AA. At his interview, he put on a very professional front, and seemed to me at first to be a pretty nice guy. I noticed his a-holeness slower than others, because I worked in the bakery and he was online. But here are a list of his crimes.
Tubig yan,
Not
nandyan yung
wearing
tubig
gloves,
sarapan mo.
not changing gloves when he should, smoking in the cafe, snapping at customers, even the nice ones, lying to customers, hitting on the 16 and 17-year-old employees. He was about 23, which included me. Generally saying D-ish things. It's been too long for me to give any actual quotes, except for this gin. You know, that soda will kill you, AA tells me as he takes a drag from his cigarette. And somehow the managers never saw any of his bad behavior.
Hamel! Hamele Dinoyo! Mega love, shout out to you. Lagyan mo ang dakit
I
eh.
closed down
Hamele
the
Dinoyo.
bakery in my lonely, isolated bakery bubble, while two people closed down the food line. One person cleans the dining room. About 5 minutes before closing, a nice elderly lady comes in wanting to order a salad. She wants it for here. That's not a problem. The only thing we can't do while she's in the cafe is mop or vacuum the dining room, which we don't do until the last 20 minutes of closing anyway. And she's alone, ordering half the salad, and sure to eat quick. Just as I'm about to finish her order, AA pops up behind my shoulder. AA, oh ma'am, you can't order in. We're closed. Me, we're not closed yet. It's fine. AA, we can't start cleaning until she leaves. Me, holding back an eye roll.
Lumpia? Oo, lumpia. Nagprito lang ako ilang piraso kay apurado yung bulinggit si Koy. Kainan man sila doon eh. Gusto ko yan, tita.
And I give her a free pastry since we're closing anyway. They get donated, not thrown away, by the way. When the nice old lady leaves, I fix AA with a death stare. He shrugs and asks, what? Don't you want to go home early? I was seriously mad. I remembered his hitting on me.
Purado ring.
Which is a story for another
Bulinggit,
day.
are.
General D-ishness. I say simply, you're an a-hole, and turn to my closing duties. AA
Ay, ang kamera ko nandun.
but doesn't press further. The hour passes. The cafe is clean. I look over at the other line worker doing her last cleaning of the appliances. I look at the wet spots from the mop on the floor drying. I wish that I could somehow make AA stay longer. And then it hits me. The new manager is on tonight. Oh, that new manager. That new manager who does everything by the
Yung
book.
ano ko, yung
Doesn't care
ulo
about
ko,
staying late.
piprituhin ko muna
That
dito,
new manager
sabay
who does the
ubin
closing
ko
thing that no
mamaya.
other manager does. Make us scrub the floor before we mop it. It takes 15 minutes, not counting the sweeping and mopping. I look at the other line worker, whose duties don't include the floor. She can go home.
Habang
The dining room
maghihiwa ako
worker is
ng
done. I'm done.
panghalo ko sa
The
pusuli
manager's been in the
ko,
office counting today's profits.
isasalang ko muna si ulo.
I grab a slice of bread from the donation bag. I step over to the now dry floor of line. I crumble the bread and let it fall. I step on it a few times to make it look like it's been there a while. I grab a slice of lettuce. I grab a bit of onion. I grab a crouton and crush it, all while keeping the counters and appliances absolutely pristine. I step back to my bakery and start putting out the clean trays and labels for the morning shifters. Then I hear the manager.
Yan na, ready na si Koy. Oh, kuha ka isa si Koy.
Dining room worker, you're good. AA, did you do the floors? AA, yeah, of course. Manager, why don't you take a closer look? I can't look. I'll give myself away. I hear AA spluttering. Manager, clean the floors, then you can go. AA is still spluttering. Can I just sweep? Manager, seriously? No. Sweep, scrub, mop.
Asa na
Then you can
magabutangan
go
na
home.
sandok ka rin.
My heart is pounding as I hear the manager approach me. I just finished putting the labels in the
Hoy,
correct
butan na na
places.
to.
Delanium looks good. You can go home. 16-year-old me couldn't believe I'd gotten away with it. I smiled at the manager, clocked out, and asked about last night's episode of the show. We chatted for a few minutes, and I watched out of the corner of my eye as AA scrubbed the floors, looking utterly defeated. I left before we finished.
Oh, di ba?
The last 4 years, embarrassing interaction at work, I'll just let you destroy your career by trying to illegally fire me. Back in 2009 to 2011, I worked for a state agency in a local office. A new manager came in and immediately said about being awful. Her name was Hannah, and she made it very clear that she was ambitious and was hoping to be promoted in the agency. Hannah was a micromanager, but experience told me that was to be expected in government work.
Oh,
Then she
mali.
started making suggestions to in advance of having. On one occasion, she walked up behind me and began walking her fingers up and down my back in an extremely inappropriate manner, and discussing that maybe we should get together outside of work. After some consideration, I decided to report it to HR. It never really went anywhere, and after a brief conversation with an HR rep, I didn't hear anything further. However, Hannah's attitude toward me completely changed. She started giving me ridiculous and demeaning jobs, like collecting staples up the carpet. She started criticizing me to other employees, and my till started coming up short after I had counted it, when she counted it to verify. She also started coming up with excuses to keep me as late as possible, knowing that I had to leave because I was taking night classes to finish my degree. This all occurred over the space of several months. However, it became clear as the relevant date approached that she had forgotten one of the first actions she had taken as manager was to approve my request for a week's vacation. I had put it in quite early, so all of this had transpired since then. I knew it would inconvenience her on Monday when she realized I wasn't there and wanted to see what she'd do. So I made sure to not mention it in the weeks leading up to my vacation week, and certainly not before I left that Friday. As I was in the car the following Friday, returning from visiting family, one of my coworkers texted me. CW, so you quit? Me, no, why? CW, you haven't been to work all week. Me, I'm on vacation. Hannah approved it months ago.
Natawa ka sa little si
She
Sikoy.
you stopped showing up.
Bakit?
She announced that you were fired. Me, well, I'll be there on Monday with my signed vacation request. Sure enough,
Natawa ka
I walked in
sa
on
ulo,
Monday,
Mara.
and everyone but the coworker I texted was shocked. They thought I had walked out. Better still, Hannah wasn't there. She had gotten a prestigious assignment to represent the agency at the state fair. The boss who was there, Rick, did his best to sort out what was going on. He told me to sit in the break room while he figured it out. From the break room, I could hear his side of his phone calls. The most satisfying bit was
Ako natawa sa title.
Hannah, you fired a guy last
Little
week?
pala.
Well, he
Ano nga ba nilagay ko
He said
title?
he didn't quit. He was out on vacation.
Hindi ko alam ano nilagay ko title dyan.
I kept my job. Later that week, the regional director called me into a meeting with Hannah, where she apologized to me. A little while later, the director transferred me to a different branch, a short distance away, which is what I really wanted all along. Coincidentally, my new branch manager was Rick, who is a far better boss.
Kala ko
He
naman
assured me at
little
a Friday
title
moment that
pala.
Hannah had nearly been fired of the illegal termination incident, and her career had been pretty much destroyed by her
Hindi
exposing
ko alam kung anong nailagay kong title. Ano ba nalagay ko?
I believe then she's still working the same manager job and still hasn't gotten the promotion she was vying for. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Have a good one.
Title pala. Ano ba nilagay ko title pala nito? Teka nga. Title? Ano ba nalagay? Pasok, mawala net ni Dipo Ngal. Nawala net ni Dipo Ngal. Inday. Sino ba? Naku.
For context, my brother
Ayan,
is
oh.
huge, like freakishly
Ano
huge.
po sila yung
He's
wala pa hindi
just
ko
a
ano
marvel of
mag-explain.
nature, and a sight to behold if you don't expect to see him. He's just slightly over 7 feet tall, almost 7'2", 218 centimeters when he's in boots, which he's always in, because why not, right? And
Kawawa naman ang ulo.
330 pounds,
Salamat, Plat.
135 to 149 kilograms. In between terrorizing villages and kidnapping princesses, he was also going to culinary school full-time, working full-time as a sous chef at an insert name of corporate chain restaurant here. Since he generally knows
Habang
what he's doing,
nagluluto,
he doesn't have an
makain.
attitude. He got promoted up the ladder
Init.
pretty quickly, and is viewed by the staff and management as an unofficial manager. He was there for about a year before getting me a job as a
Ah,
nights of the week for extra
Natawa ka
cash.
sa Dipungal.
Now, my brother is the sweetest man you'll ever meet, but because of his sheer size, he's gotten a bit of a reputation as someone you don't want to mess with. One night during the summer, he wasn't too busy, all things considered, until a large party of nearly 20 or so people show up, and decided to make life hard for the staff. They all order a variety of steak, but no matter what was given to them, there was always something wrong with the dish. I asked for my steak rare, but this is far too rare. My meal was supposed to come with a baked potato with cheese on the side, not in the potato. I wanted to
Nandoon na, nakikinig na kanyang drama.
Adults were terrorizing the staff. Their kids were terrorizing the customers, running around and screaming their heads off while climbing over chairs and empty tables. When the other busboys and I are trying to clean them up.
Manood doon sa computer niya. Jumbong lumpia, oo.
They were loud, obnoxious, and berating the young waitress assigned to them.
Pag maliit, sabihin man yan si Chef. Ano yan?
But one in particular, a sweet
Nano ba yung kakain yan? Sabihin.
Got the worst of it for daring to stop a child from playing so close near the kitchen. W equals waitress. BD equals bully's dad. BK equals bully's kid. W, sweetie, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to go back to your table. BK, but why? I want to play. W, you can't be so close to the kitchen, sweetie. Someone might step on you. BK goes back to the table to speak to BD. He stands in a huff and barrels down towards the waitress. BD, excuse me, what did you say to my son? W, I told him he could play so close to the kitchen he could get hurt. BD, who do you think you are speaking to my child like that? I want to speak to your manager. Clearly this job is too hard for someone like you. BK, you tell her, Dad. W, I'm sorry, sir, but... BD, I'm sorry, are you deaf and dumb, or are your ears as slanted as your eyes? At this point, the sweet waitress walks off, tears already in her eyes. ED goes back to his table with a smirk. Little does he know what's about to happen. Waitress is in the back prep area crying her eyes out, with several other employees trying to comfort her. My big brother sees this and asks what happened. Now, a part of the reputation he has is that he is extremely protective of the female employees, especially the younger girls. And seeing how the restaurant manager isn't too busy, he decides to speak to the customer, who wanted to see the manager. After having the guy pointed out by the still upset waitress, he walks to the loud table. One by one, each adult stops talking, as they watch an angry giant get closer and closer to them. By the time he's standing at their table, he looks like a genie parent staring down the kiddie table. BB, you wanted to speak with the manager? BD, what? BB, you told your waitress you wanted to speak with the manager. I'm the manager on staff, what can I help you with? BD, well no, I don't. BB, we've been getting a lot of food sent back from this table. Is there an issue you want me to fix for you? BD, no, the food is good, everything's fine. BB then proceeds to go to every person, asking how their food was, if there's a problem he could help with. Not a single person says anything negative, all of them far too terrified by the shack-sized human being staring him down, until he gets back to Bully. He stares at him unblinking, just watching him squirm in his seat. BB, aren't you the guy who made my 19-year-old waitress cry? The man stammers, clearly intimidated by my brother's resting bee face. The BD says nothing, as every adult and child at that table silently watches the man get browbeaten by my brother. He doesn't yell, he doesn't curse, he just stares at them, almost begging for them to say anything. They don't. My brother then proceeds to stand there watching the group continue their meal, in almost absolute silence for almost a half hour. He gets their check himself, and watches as they pay, making sure none of them try anything stupid, like not paying for their dinners, and escorts them out of the restaurant. Thankfully, we never see any of those people again. The second story is, you're to report to me after every task. Backstory.
Kaya pala sabi nila nakakataba daw pag luluto sis. Ngayon alam ko na.
Working 9 p.m. to 4 to 5 a.m. and then having class at 7 a.m. and labs until 5 p.m. most evenings. And my allowance for BS was low. I'm a science degree, I always had labs. I was supposed to clock off at 1 each night, since I was only part-time. At the Orange Fabric store, they consider it a working warehouse, so they have all the powered lift equipment, and I was pretty good at it. So good that after 4 years there, I was the only person trained on one of the machines, for my singular team stocking freight. DOP, think a cherry picker with a 4-foot metal platform attached for the uninformed. The problem. Because I was in school, I refused to work late evenings before tests, and I would sometimes call out entirely for big exams. It was the primary use for my sick and vacation time. My supervisor and the operations manager above me loved me, so it was no problem, until cool bosses left. Enter D manager and busy supervisor. D manager wanted to clean house of anyone who could think for themselves, meaning someone like me. Ditzy supervisor wanted to be promoted quickly. So
Iwakan mo nga itong ano din, baka matubay
a
ito.
prelude and the act. DM and DS were being ridiculous one night, and I had an exam the next morning. So I started getting things ready for me to do OT work. I planned on leaving at 1. I talked with DS about it 2 weeks prior, and had gotten it in writing from the store manager. DM and DS stopped me, asked me what I was doing. No one was leaving until everyone was done. We had 5 people, and got from 3 to 4 trucks a week. To say we were behind was an understatement. Me, I have an exam in the morning. I'm the only one who can do these.
Madam nang. Wait, dire mo tarong. Nang di man na tarong ba?
DM looks at me, says, okay, go about your
Kaya kung
business.
naman nahilong ba?
I should have seen this stupidity
At lang
coming.
naman
The next day I come in and get called into the office. DM and DS are there. DM. Last night we noticed you were doing tasks that weren't functioning with the group. And while we didn't explicitly say not to do them, you were asked to work break, not the OP work. Me, isn't the OP just another part of the break? And I had an exam. Looks at DS. You were aware. It's on the note here and in the system. DS. While that's true, since you're a veteran member of the team, we need you to be more proactive and showing you guys what to do and who's in charge. DM.
Yes.
So from now on, every task must be given to you explicitly by DS. If your team doing something that isn't from her direct orders, then you're not to do it. When you finish your task, you're to go to her and get your next one. Me, stairs. My father was in the military, and my grandfather was a DI. I'm told I'm quite stone-faced. DM, we need you to sign this stating that you understand. It was one of the sheets they used when doing non-fireable punishments. Basically, you've been told you're screwing up. If you keep it up, we'll use this against you later, if we decide we want to be rid of you. And they stay in the computer system for 6 months. So for example, you can only be late 4 times in a 6-month period. So say you're late 3 times in January. If you're late before a certain date in June, they'll put you on a final warning. Enter the malicious compliance.
Tambay sis, di ko lang. Sige lang sis, walang problema si Koy.
Waiting for my next task the moment I was done. If she was in a meeting with another associate, I waited outside the door. If she was on lunch, I waited for her to decide to take notice of me. If she was in the bathroom, guess who was right outside the door? To top it off, I made some charts and spreadsheets for my grades from when I had the good bosses and then the new situation. After reviewing them with my store manager, I convinced her that under no exception, I would be kept late. So for the next 5 months, I left exactly at 1:01. If they tried to keep me later, the manager called DS and DM in for a tunnel action. Edit. I was super tired when I posted this. Decided I should add more context. Last October, I switched from this job to the loading one. Much better job with only 1/4 the stress. Load carts and load people's purchases. I'm in process to enlist. After a bit, we collected enough evidence on DM that when we send the pictures and such to corporate, they moved into a lower performing store. And the last story is, want to sign a little bit? I'll
Kuha ko
make
ng
sure
basura
you're
ng
compliant.
makasali
I
ko ng
work for a traffic tracking
motor
company
jet,
in
ng
Pennsylvania.
bike.
I work as a traffic controller, means I'm the guy that sets up the traffic cones and signs at construction sites, as well as hold the sign with the stop and slow on either side. As you can guess, because I'm sure some of you do just a little bit, people hate me when I'm at work. I get constant remarks and comments thrown at me, simply because I inconvenience even some of you. But I don't get that by making sure the workers, my coworkers, and the drivers are all safe. And no one gets hurt or killed. I also don't give an SH about what people say about me, since I have pretty thick skin. I've been overweight most of my life, and didn't have a girlfriend for a long time, so people always assumed I was gay. Even I recently came out as bisexual. So one day I'm working a job with 4 other traffic controllers. Usually it's only 2, me and someone else. But we were on a busy interaction, so we needed more people. I was at the top of a hill, which slowed into a huge S-bend before the intersection. I was there to make sure that the people slowed down before the bend to avoid them blowing past, or hitting my coworker at the bottom. I was to only stop traffic when I was radio to. This was only for the few times the work trucks were moving out of the work zone. Things were going smoothly at first, until eventually I got the call to hold traffic. So I flipped my sign to stop, and traffic comes to a stop perfectly fine. Then I hear it. A few cars down the line, a woman is blaring her horn non-stop, screaming out the window of her Mercedes. This Karen is just wailing that I stopped everyone. She eventually gets out of her car and comes stomping up to me. Now, I can't leave my post. However, I was fully prepared to whack this beat with my sign if needed. She finally reaches me and says this. Hey, it's Karen. Him is me. Kay, what the heck are you doing? Me, I'm holding the traffic, ma'am. Kay, let us through. I have to be at the airport. Me, I'm sorry, ma'am, but we have workers moving down there. You're just gonna have to wait. Karen, this is effing ridiculous. Just tell them to move. I have to go. Yes, that exaggerated. Me, I'm sorry. She cuts me off. Karen, listen, you Carolyn is taking good for nothing flying ball. Get up out of my way.
Bukan na bukas na sasampalin kita.
She's going back to her car. I mean, I have thick skin, so I didn't care about the comment. However, I'm still not against some good old malicious compliance. She wants me to do my job? Well, alrighty then. I get the call to let traffic through and didn't do so. I noticed the 2 cars that were behind Karen had turned off to the side road, so she was the last one in the line. Oh, perfect, I think to myself. I radioed down to the guy at the bottom of the hill. You probably won't be holding traffic for a bit. By law and PA, I can hold traffic for 15 minutes. So I decided to use that to get some malicious compliance on Karen. I let the car in front of her go and stop her. She starts backing up again. Karen, what the heck are you doing? Me, sorry ma'am, there's an obstruction in the road. You'll need to wait till it's moved. What was the obstruction, you ask? Well, it was my lunchbox that I threw in the middle of the road after stopping her. She went on for 15 minutes on me about how she's gonna miss her flight. Now I'm a dirty monster. Super nice. bawat pamilya. Alam ng tunay na Never been to jail, by the way. 15 minutes goes by and I moved my lunchbox and let her through. Thankfully, only one other car came by in that time. And it turned off into a driveway, so I wasn't inconvenienced 10 minutes in here. She pulls up and yells at me and asks, "What the F are you doing, you SHN?" I reply with a very snarky, "Just doing my job, ma'am." She drives away and I huffs. When we finished up, the others asked what I was doing, and I told them what happened. They thought it was the funniest SH they heard that week. I don't know if she was late for a flight, but I hope she was. Moral of the story, kids, don't F with traffic controllers. We can F up your day more than you think. I hope you enjoy these stories. And if you like them, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you next time. Welcome to
Kainin mo
our
lahat
Flash
ng
Event,
bakil mo.
where we share stories of small victories over those who have wronged you. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today's first story is threaten to lie and accuse my kids of damaging your car. I think I'll keep my camera footage of your car actually being hidden. I was living in an apartment with just myself and my two daughters, twins. There was no assigned parking, and myself and the people who lived below me often ended up in parking spots fairly close to each other. I had just purchased my first non-meter car, so I was being very cautious about how I parked, not bumping into anything, parking too close to the line, etc. The neighbors, however, constantly parked right on the edge, crooked, sometimes over the line, etc. One night I came home from work, and all the spots in front of the apartments we lived in were empty. I remembered this because it was odd, and kind of a cool, I don't have to squeeze in or park a mile away moment. The next morning, me and my girls used to go grocery shopping. My neighbor's car is parked next to ours, and there's a very large noticeable scratch and dent on his door. It honestly looked like someone had intentionally slammed their door into it repeatedly. We get home and are carrying our groceries up the stairs. It takes a few trips. After the last trip, I'm in the doorway, and one of my daughters comes racing up behind me. "Mom, there's a lady asking the other daughter's name a bunch of questions, even though she said she can't talk to her." I'm big on the don't talk to strangers thing. So I head down and ask what I can do for her, and the conversation basically goes as follows. N equals me, N equals neighbor, NBF equals neighbor's boyfriend/husband. Me, can I help you? N, I think your kid may have hit my car with your car door. Maybe she didn't, but she refuses to answer me, so she seems guilty. Me, well, first of all, my daughter doesn't know you, and she doesn't have to answer you. In fact, I'm going to ask you to not speak to my daughters unless I'm present or I give you permission. Secondly, my daughters are 10. I don't allow them to get into my car without
Hindi kami lalapyan sa'yo. Sisi, our celebrity.
If these people off in the car closed, when do you think this happened? And last night, and you're not with your kid every time they open the door. No, it could have happened when they were getting something out of it. Me, well, since I live on the third floor, I actually don't let my kids go get things out of the car without me. I'm just not comfortable being unable to get to them quickly if something were to happen. And last night we parked before you got home, and remained parked all night until we left this morning for groceries. The dad was already there when we left.
Yang sombrero ko, pag yan ay nasira,
And
palo ko talaga yung bilas ko talaga.
It's obviously yours. Your kids did this. Me, I point out that there isn't a single scuff on any of my doors, including the inside that would have hit. I also open my door and show her that where my door would hit her car door is above where her damage was. I have an SUV, and she had a small loaded brown sedan. So even if you don't believe me that my kids aren't allowed in my car unsupervised, it couldn't have been my car. Ann begins getting very angry and loud at this point. I don't care. You're the only one around here with kids. I see them almost hit other cars all the time. And you park too close to other cars. You need to start parking further away. If it happens again, I'll get your insurance involved. Me, okay, we're done here. Do what you think you need to. I start to head upstairs, and her boyfriend comes out and blocks my way. NBF, what did she say? N yells angrily. She's trying to say it wasn't them. She's trying to lie and say her kids don't get in the car without her. NBF, that's BS. We've seen them all.
Hindi pa tapos, hindi pa, Jeff. Nako, hindi pa ako tapos, Jeff. Malayo pa, katotohanan.
Get out of my way now and let me pass. NBF, no, I was yours. The paint is white. You got kids. We've seen them in other cars. Me, you literally just said you've seen them almost hit other cars. Now you're saying you've seen them actually hit cars. Neither is true. At this point, I simply move to the next stairwell over and start heading up. Andy's screaming at me. No, you need to take responsibility for what your kids do. You're not going to pay me. I need your insurance information now. Me, you don't need and are not getting my insurance information because I wasn't involved in any kind of accident or contact with your vehicle. You really need to stop screaming at me. We both say a lot to live here, as do all of our neighbors. No one needs to hear irate screaming in the parking lot. And we saw your kids.
Layo,
We're
kasi
gonna call the
tapos
cops,
mga
and
anak
we're
niya
gonna tell everyone here
patapos.
how your kids hit their cars too. Anyone who has a scratch is going to know to come to you. At this point, I turned the voice record feature on my phone. Me, that was the first time you said you saw my kids do that. You're literally making things up now. You can't go around door to door here. It's against community rules and the lease that everyone has to abide by. And you can't just go around lying because you want someone to fix your car. And you're going to take responsibility or we will tell everyone you hit their cars. I shut the door and called the police myself to explain the situation. Because after they lied and changed their story to that, they actually saw my kids hit their car. I was worried they would make that report. The apartment complex management wasn't there on weekends, but I told them the following Monday. They assured me that they couldn't do what they threatened and told me not to worry about it and said they'd give them a verbal warning. The police came and I played the recording for them and showed them how my car had no damage and my door didn't even line up with their damage.
Ayun, oh, wala
The
na yun.
neighbors went inside and shut their door.
Ang tunog na higugas para ka nang
The
hinugasan
police
ng
basically
phone
told
mo
me I
to.
had nothing to worry
Ika
about.
makuot
It's
na.
not feeling like they were trying to get someone to cover their
Kuot mo
damage.
ka nang
They didn't know
nakalihan.
who did it. They were trying to use intimidation to get me to pay. They knocked
Oh,
on the
dan
neighbor's
nang
door and
ilagay ng
claimed
buwan.
that they would stop me from trying to get into my apartment or harass me, that they were going to give me a report. It sounded like they may be trying to get insurance fraud. They attempted to tell the officers that they saw my kids hit their car, but they don't have any. After that, they taking a video of my car and theirs every time I parked. A couple times they came out yelling that I'm not allowed to film their car without permission. I just blew that off. That got really tedious, but it was clear they weren't letting go of their grudge against me and my kids. So I invested in a cheap security camera. I put it in the window facing the parking lot below. I would skim it really fast at night, or if I was parked during the day for several hours. I just sped it up really fast, looking for when their car parked, etc. One day I pulled up and they were out on their porch. I started to walk upstairs, and they made snarky comments like, "Oh, you're not going to get out and video everything?" I actually wanted them to know that my car was still being filmed, so they knew they couldn't make crap up. So I said in the friendliest, non-sarcastic tone I could muster, "No, don't need to. I have a camera in my window doing it for me." This was a mistake. So they started flipping out, demanding to know where the camera catches, and ranting that I can't film them on their porch. The camera didn't catch on the porch, and demanding that I show them where all was being filmed, and if I didn't take it down, they'd have me arrested, blah, blah. I mentioned that they'd already been warned by the apartment complex management to stop contacting me, and that I didn't really want to have to report them, because they continued to threaten me would. Fast forward a few months, and a large service came back into their parked car and drives off. It caused significant damage. My camera caught it all. They actually knocked on my door asking if it had. And honestly, had they been polite, I probably would have helped them out. But they basically just immediately started demanding that I check my camera. And if I wouldn't, it was probably because it was me, blah, blah, blah. I let them know that I would be deleting the footage and not to contact me again. They tried to say that if I did, it was a crime, since it was evidence of a crime. And they were going to call the cops on me, blah, blah. Nothing else ever happened. But it's one of the few times in my life I've ever not helped someone when I was in a position to. I don't feel bad at all. The second story is, using my unpaid work, we got it a little closer. A couple of years ago, I was working as a product designer for a conniving driver. For $17 an hour, I would conceive new products, do the spec and shop drawings, create 3D renderings, post all the information in the company files, send the docs to the fabricators, and updated the drawings for the fabricators' feedback. Sounds like work? I produced up to 15 household items per day. I was a queen because I wanted to grow in the field. In the meantime, I would flip through magazines, yell at everyone, and yell at everyone in the office. She had no concept of product design. She was the business manager. This created no end of frustration, complaining to her how long projects could reasonably take.
The good boy that he's on the street.
Team Ganda, mega mega love shout out. Lian, salamat Lian. Crystal Pate, mega love shout out Arceli. Ay, nag-ano siguro si Arceli. Nag-live ba si Arceli, Crystal Pate? Pasugod eh. Team ganda Arceli, oh, yun oh. Nag-live yan. Salamat, si Kuya Arceli. 30 minutes na lang, matatapos na ako.
Nakalive daw siya.
Okay, sige, walang problema. Malapit na ako matapos. 30 minutes na lang, eksakto ko lang. Yeah, wala na po.
Sugod, magkakapatid.
Patikim sis, dali, walang problema, Ellen.
Sumpa. Tayo ay magkasama.
Ah. Oh, you don't want that, right? Yeah. That's my work last night. You know what is it? Very wet now.
So very wet. Banji, may love shout out. Hello, Ate Crystal Pate Arellano.
Yung kuya niya ba?
Hello sa
Akala niya
inyo.
walang cake. Sabi ko, hindi mo ba alam nag-bake ako kagabi? Dalawa pang cake mo?
Hello sa nakapamanda. Meron akong chocolate.
Dinalawa ko kasi baka mamaya kulang.
Migraine.
You thinking you didn't have cake?
Oh, I don't know.
It was a surprise.
I really don't care about cake. I guess I want to make sure everybody else that
They have 2 pieces that I
you
make.
know, Carlito loves cake. Can you read this man? You got any cake? Well, I was gonna give you money, but if you don't need your cake, that's fine. Okay. Let me know I did it right.
Hindi, hawakan mo nga to.
And she fired me after 3 months. I was upset, but decided it was for the best. The work atmosphere was just not viable, so I handed in my hours and wished everyone luck on my way out. I was a lot less even keeled when I got my paycheck and realized that she cut it by a third. When I called her, I had the phone on speaker, and my lawyer friend listening. She tried to get me to My friend shut it in and intimidated her. We agreed that she would send me the remainder of my pay. Once I got it, I would email her a rendering that I had done the month before, which she lost. The bimbo didn't even know how to look up her own data. The The check garage is in my great surprise. I was able to catch it without a hitch.
Magsisig na yan, sis.
This is a photorealistic hotel lobby.
Banat banje.
Then I decided to ask him
Nagahugas naman si Dari Day.
former boss's face. Why did he
Diyan may hong tagahugas na rin.
I brought this cigarette butt spotted plant. I put a very not safe for work poster in its adjoining room, just barely visible. I put slight footprints on the rug, and an impression on the chair that suggested a large person was shut up. I put a rest control on it. Then I superimposed words over the whole image. I took the healing brush tool on Photoshop and used it to make slightly blurry dots on top of this image. The blurry dots form the word. If your eyes relax, you will do unpaid labor. Once your eyes focus, the words go away. That's the guy's type of trick. This is the version I sent my former boss. When I said it 2 days ago, 5 years after the act, the image is still using as a homepage for a website. And the last story is, I'm sorry that you don't cut my paycheck. So to set the scene, I work in a family restaurant. People are doing shit left and right. I'm one of them, or trying to be. I'm a cook in the last 4 months. In total, there are 4 cooks left. So before so many jump ships, I
Ang tanga na ni ko na ni, basig mga dapat ni.
call R for this instance.
Ni,
Well, R, to get some idea of the type of person she is, she's a very short, angry person. She has her job, apparently SH's nice smelling flowers. She likes to cook on the egg cake. Her plant used to eat some on the older hand. Call every order of eggs. I refuse to do so, since she refused to do anything else. I'm running around the kitchen cooking everything from pancakes to steaks, while she sits on eggs and misses every other order.
o ana, itabi mo yan doon, hindi yan makasya. Yan, tanggalin mo yan yung ginawa mo.
She helps the customer who asks for a remake. Overall, she's a beat everyone. And her business doesn't do anything besides eggs. She does so and leaves. Well, finally, that shift ended for her. She was on her way out. She hasn't done any cleaning, any stocking, absolutely nothing. So I politely asked, hey, Art, can we please change the trash out before you leave? And she replies, yelling, you see, this is why we don't work well together. You don't cut my paycheck, and I don't need no kid to tell me how to do my job. She yelled other stuff that is not important, and mostly random babbling.
Ibaba mo yan.
I am young. I'm younger than the majority of kids in
Kapatid na
America.
ni.
Definitely younger than most of the position. But I do not
Dali
take
lang
time to
kamot.
people who
Pwede ng kuanan yung kamot.
especially when I have more
Ano ano, are?
in a leadership position. And definitely not from someone who can't do it in the past. Give respect, get respect. So I fast forward to the present. I moved to night shift due to a cook unable to do so anymore, and others leaving. And I happen to be on the schedule as hard as the morning cook. Thus begins my revenge. I clean the required places, but oops, I forgot to change the trash. Stopped the liner for the grill. So she walked in with nothing on the line. Trash overflowing, and the icing on the cake. A party of 24 walked in as I walked out. She'd seen this, and before I left, yelled again, saying X and X is supposed to be done, and that I need to stay and help with the party. My reply, I'm sorry you don't cut my check, and I don't need some little bee telling me how to do my job. And I walked out and went home. Thank you for
May
listening.
ganon,
You
sir,
have a video.
Joshua? Ay, Joshua?
Welcome to r/Petty Revenge. Where we share stories of small victories over those who wronged you. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today's first story is, you want the actual price? Let me get it for you. Okay, so my hotel comes across a lot of entitled people, but I got some revenge this time. A little background. My hotel allows more than 2 people to stay in the room. However, there's more than 2 adults in the room. It's usually priced more than $10 for each adult. So if you have 5 adults in the room, it's an extra $30. I usually don't up the price unless there's a manager nearby, only because rooms are pretty expensive as it is. Me equals me. B equals B. FB equals friend of B. It's a pretty normal day coming into the hotel. About 30 seconds, so it's nothing special. This lady comes in entitled to death and asks if I have any rooms available. Me, just for tonight? B, yes, just for tonight. Like I'm gonna stay in this crappy town for a day longer. Me, yeah, this town can be pretty boring, but it can be nice at times. How many adults and children are going to be in the room?
Oh.
B, why does that matter? Me, I don't tell people the price difference if they have more than 2 adults in the room. Otherwise, they lie and say they have 2, when in reality they have 4. Oh, it's in case there's a fire, and the fire department needs to know how many bodies are in each room for rescue. This is true.
Bumaba ka dito, ano ka? Swerte, ako pupunta
I have 2
sa'yo.
adults and 1 child. At this point, I know she's probably lying, but since I'm in a good mood, I let it slide. Me, okay, so my king standard is going for 144 plus tax, and my 2 queen standard is going for 134 plus tax.
Diyos mo na!
B, that's outrageous.
Diyos mo na, wala pang pite. Diyos mo na, dali.
Do you have AAA or military? B, no. Me, unfortunately, I can't bring the price down any lower. Let's get one of those things. B, fine, I'll take it. The other hotel chain across the street is way better. they're sold out. Me, okay, may I see your ID and your debit or credit card? Check-in process ensues, and I put her in a room on the first
Kuha ni mo
floor
yan landot dai.
because she requested
Wala
it.
pag
And I
yan.
don't know
Wala
complaints.
pag yan.
This lady has asked for
Huh?
things to be taken up to her
Wala
room.
kami.
Extra towels, extra blankets, soap, better pillows.
Kay,
Room service up the wall too. But then she gets frustrated when I let
Araw-araw
her
walang
to
biyahe?
this hotel. We can't give her room service.
bakit?
She has to come down and get it herself. And there is no housekeeping working. And it's
Nasa mo
just
to
me.
ka.
I can't leave the desk
Durog
unattended
mo
unless
din.
I have to. At this point,
Huh?
I'm getting pretty frustrated with this lady. I get a call from the room next door saying that the room is being pretty noisy and they need to keep it down. I go ahead and call her. Conversation follows. Me, hi, it's me. And me, no, this is your friend. What do you want, lady? Me, I actually received a noise complaint. Would it be possible? SB, B, you hear that? We got a noise complaint.
Ako nga,
Trying to
oh.
be louder, huh?
Luluto pa, nag-live pa.
Yeah, F these a-holes. At this point, I can hear them from down the hall. More noise complaints ensue, so I start heading over towards the room, and I feel my chest vibrating as they Me, knocks on the door. Front desk? B, what the heck do you want, lady? If you keep bothering me, I'm gonna have to speak to your manager. I noticed that she has not one, not two, not three, but four extra adults in the room. She even had a couple dogs in the room. Pet fees are mandatory and cost $25 per pet per night. She agreed to that. She signed a registration card when she checked in. Me, I'm sorry, miss, but it's a little loud in here. Would it be possible to keep it down and to not disturb the guests in the neighboring room? B, no. Why the heck would I do that? I paid to be here. Me, as did these other guests. I'm going to ask you to comply or you will be evicted. B, hey FB, you hear that? She wants us to leave. FB, well it sucks for her now, doesn't it? We'll just have to leave then. They slam the door in my face, and I can hear them crashing the place. I go back to my desk and calculate the actual cost of her room. In total, her room was originally around 155 after taxes. After what I did, we brought it up to 280, included the extra adults in the room, which was around $50. The two pets, which was another $50. And I also took her security deposit, due to the amount of mess in the room. I didn't automatically input into the system yet, though. I wanted to wait for her to come down and physically check out first. About 30 minutes later, she comes down. B, hi, yes, we want to check out. Me, okay, awesome. Did you enjoy your stay? B, of course not. This place is complete garbage. And even looking at you made it worse. Me, oh, well, I apologize for that. Would you like the receipt? The total was 155. B, how could it be that much? We only stayed for 4 hours. Me, oh, I'm sorry. Let me calculate the actual credit for you. I put in all the proper stuff in the system, and it comes out to 280 and some change.
Araw-araw mo
Me,
gasin.
so the total is 280. Would you like the receipt?
No. Buti nga, ugas lang eh.
Me, well, for starters, you lied and said you had 2 adults.
Madaling trabaho lang yung
I
hugas.
forgot to mention how if you have more than 2 adults in the room, that's right, $10 per adult. I counted 7 adults, so that's around $50.
Simpleng trabaho, mahirap trabaho yung magluto.
When you sign your card, you acknowledge their pet policy of $25, which is non-refundable per pet per night. I also noticed you can trash the room, which calls for your security deposit to be taken out, to cover the damage to the car. Would you like the receipt printed? B, excuse me, who the heck do you think you're talking to? I'm going to speak to your manager right now. Me, okay, well, you're going to have to wait until tomorrow. Seeing that my GM doesn't get here until tomorrow, and I'm the only one on duty. I'm going to ask you to leave until she comes in tomorrow, though. B, when your manager gets a load of what you've done, you're going to get fired, and I'm going to get my D refund. Me, okay, good luck with that. Have a good day. The second story is, sorry, Mrs. Drives like a jerk, lawyers really are allowed to fire their clients. This happened about 2 years ago when I was working as a paralegal for a small personal injury law firm. I was on my way to work and stopped in one of 2 left turn lanes, waiting for the light to give me the go-ahead. I started to turn when the lady, hereafter referred to as Mrs. Jerk, next to me realized she was in the wrong left turn lane and cut me off to get into mine, almost making me crash into her. I barely managed to avoid slamming into her, or her slamming into me, and she peeled off, quickly accelerating past the speed limit. A few seconds later, I see her ahead of me, trying to change lanes again, and crash into someone else's car. I pull over and call the police. The poor high school girl Mrs. Jerk hit was shaken but all right, but Mrs. Jerk was raising heck, screaming and cussing. When the police arrived, I tell them what I had seen and gave them my information. I didn't think anything else about it until 6 months later. One of the paralegals at my office couldn't follow the simple directions. I will call her Bimbo. It wasn't long before Bimbo was fired. And so to have it, I got saddled with compliance. Yay, me. One of them was a super annoying woman who would call at least 3 times a day, wanting an update on her case. Mary knows she could expect some money for her debilitating injuries, and if she could get a loan. She was apparently under the impression that we moonlighted at the bank. When we told her that there was nothing new to report, because it would take a while, she would start
Sakto na isang oras.
telling us that we weren't treating her right. and that she would fire us if we didn't give her the money she felt she was owed. I
Bayan.
finally got all of her medical records and bills and sent a demand package to the at-fault party's insurance company, requesting they pay X amount to our client. Now, for those of you who don't know, personal